Fuck this job!
Can you get his bottle and take out the trash? You never fucking do anything.
Eddie, if a man and woman need a marriage license to get married, what do lesbians need?
What?
A liquor license. What's another name for coming in a woman?
What?
Loading the dishwasher. Why is reverse cowgirl illegal in Alabama?
Why?
Because you never turn your back on family. Hey, Yeti, who cooks in a lesbian relationship?
Who?
No one. They both eat out. Hey, Yeti, how do you circumcise a hillbilly?
How?
Kick his sister in the jaw. Hey, Yeti, what do you call two lesbians in a closet?
What?
A liquor cabinet. I saw 6 guys beating the shit out of my mother-in-law. My wife said, "Are you gonna help?" I told her, "Nah, 6 should be enough." Hey, Yeti, what do you call a lesbian Eskimo?
What?
A Klondike.
I'm cleaning my room, Mom. Don't bother me.
Officer Doofy, reporting for duty.
This isn't easy for me. I know we've been together a long time, but I found somebody else. Okay, I'm in love.
Don't look at me like that. We can still be friends. You can come in my room whenever you want. We just can't. No. No. Okay, just this once. Yeah, that's it.
Woo! Ooh, that's some crazy stuff there, boys. How's it going? What's new? How we doing? Well, it's how should we say this? It's a man. It's one of them days. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was debating if I should do a stream or not. Joe told me he was gonna stream late, so I said, well, I'll start a little late too. So hopefully he'll remember to raid the stream. And help a brother out and be a mensch and all that good business. But how's everybody doing today? We don't have very many people here today because, what it is, it's late, and I know. So Kevin, if you're still here, hi. And JD and Critter Sitter, how you doing? Not going to do a goal or anything. Steve Hillard, oh my God, what are you doing up so late? Nice to see you. I'm not going to do a goal or anything tonight because, it's already 12:30. And what am I going to go until sunrise if I hit the goal? That would be insane. So we're just going to have some fun and do some stories and, stuff like that. Did I forget to do style? No. I did want to say this, so I did do this too. If you see on the top corner of the screen, though, that's the Cash App thing. I have this other one. It's for PayPal. It's a tip jar. I didn't know they had such a thing, but there it is. That's crazy, right? Tip jar, PayPal. I don't know. Anyway, don't know how that works, but we'll see. Super. But, so... The first story that I wanted to talk about tonight is, is about Adam Schiff and stuff that he's got going on. So we're going to pull that up and do a little talking about it and see where it goes from there. So first story tonight has to do with mortgage fraud and Adam Schiff.
And tonight, an update on an Ingram Angle exclusive, a Trump administration source telling the Angle that a criminal investigation of Adam Schiff is underway, conducted by U.S. Attorney's Office in Maryland for possible charges involving mortgage fraud. Now, this follows the story we broke last month when the Federal Housing Finance Agency sent a criminal referral to the DOJ alleging that Schiff, in multiple instances, falsified bank documents and property records to acquire more favorable loan terms. In a 2011 affidavit signed by the then California congressman, he certified that a property in Montgomery County, Maryland, is his primary residence. He also owns a condo in Burbank, California, which he's also claimed is his primary residence, and said so in 2023 during his campaign for Senate.
I think just about every member of Congress has a residence in their state and a residence back in D.C. since we're in session much of the week. And people make a family decision where they're going to have their kids. But our principal residence, our primary residence is in California. It always has been and always will be.
Ruh-roh. Well, Senator Schiff has not responded to us about these allegations, but we were able to find a statement that his campaign spokesperson gave to CNN back in 2023. She said that the Burbank condo is his primary residence, but Adams, California and Maryland addresses have been listed as primary residences for loan purposes because they're both occupied throughout the year and to distinguish them from a vacation property. Well, the law does not work that way. Let me just say that, but nice try. Look, it's anyone's guess what happens next, but we're going to stay on this story.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Why does a multimillionaire need favorable loans? Well, believe it or not, most multimillionaire, a lot of people they don't pay cash for houses because it's like if you're investing a bunch of money, you don't want to have money tied up in a house. You use it other places, and a lot of times interest rates are under say if you get interest rates below 4%, 3%, 2% interest rates on your house. You're going to make more money taking that money and investing in other places as opposed to paying a mortgage. That's generally what people say that have money. They like to use other people's money to make money, and so that's why they borrow the money for their house. I don't know. That's what I hear. It's the story that I hear. So down real quick. This back. Go this way. Yeah. And I wanted to briefly cover this. Before we get into the other one. Says this MSNBC analyst says that the DOJ is launching a grant. Sorry, well, is this better now? An analyst says the DOJ is launching a grand jury probe of Russiagate. Is a weapon, is they're saying the probe of Russiagate is weaponization of the DOJ. If they come out in the DC district, they might not get the outcome they want. So it's likely they're going to put it in Florida, which means they're looking for a certain outcome, not where the facts actually drive you. They're like circular thinking here, like, oh, if you go to DC, you're not going to be able to convict anybody, so you're going somewhere else, so that means you want to convict somebody. Like, wow, so manufacturing intelligence to launch a coup isn't weaponization, but investigating possible crimes arriving from it is, and it won't be a fair process unless it's in DC, right. Relentless Russia hopes damage control and narrative setting over the last 24 hours from legacy media was to be expected. They certainly don't disappoint. Yeah, ready?
Trust the current DOJ officials to follow the facts here?
I do not. And I think what's going to be telling is where they put the grand jury. So a grand jury is typically 23 citizens that are brought together. It's a prosecutorial tool, but if they convene it in DC district, they might not get the outcome that they want. So it's likely they're going to put it in Florida, which means they're looking for a certain outcome, not where the facts actually drive you. So again, this looks like weaponization. And what it looks like is, he's bring together an old conspiracy to kind of fig leaf the Epstein conspiracy. So we're bringing President Obama back in. Hillary Clinton, George Soros is mentioned in this again. So it's the old hits coming back, which might drag some of the MAGA base back to their side.
Trust the current DOJ officials to follow the
Yeah, so it's an old MAGA base. It's just that. So an absolute bait and switch con man, O'Leary, is claiming that they're putting it in Florida to avoid following the facts when the entire reason it's being moved out of DC is because DC juries are the ones who provably ignore the facts, see the Sussman foreperson. Yeah, the level of relentless gaslighting and lying is hoaxing we've seen in the last 24 hours is right on par with what they're doing with the original hoax. Yeah, journalists know how to lie. Likely the outcome to DC is not the Republicans who have weaponized the system. Right, because, DC is 97% Democrat or something, so. All right. This is the main story, the big main story tonight. It's the, you were told you would not be probed again. Small gray men promised you. Well, I understand, Steve, and that's the thing. Like, if you're not actively investing and using money to make money type of thing, if you're just living off the money you have type of stuff, a lot of people that it's different. But if you're gonna, I don't know. People always say, don't ever use your own money. Use other people's money to make money. That's how you make money, is by using other people's money. I don't know. That's what they say. And who's they? Those people. You know what I mean? They say it. This is from POTUS today. It says, somebody from Doge was badly hurt last night. A young man who was beat up by a bunch of thugs in D.C. Either they're going to straighten their act out, or we're going to have to federalize and run it the way it's supposed to be run. Let's see.
By the way, I have to say that somebody from Doge was very badly hurt last night. You saw that. A young man who was beat up by a bunch of thugs in D.C. And either they're going to straighten their act out in the terms of government and in terms of protection, or we're going to have to federalize and run it the way it's supposed to be run. By the way, I have to say that.
So that's his thing. So then here's this other one. It says, look at this guy who was all beat up. Really bad. All right. Really, really bad. It says, crime in Washington, D.C. is totally out of control. Local youth and gang members, some only 14, 15, 16-year-olds, are randomly attacking, mugging, and maiming and shooting innocent citizens at the same time knowing that they will be almost immediately released. They are not afraid of law enforcement because they know nothing ever happens to them. What's going to happen now? The law in D.C. must be changed to prosecute these minors as adults and lock them up for a long time, starting at age 14. The most recent victim was beaten mercilessly by local thugs. Washington, D.C. must be safe, clean, and beautiful for all Americans, and importantly, the world to see. If D.C. doesn't get its act together and quickly, we'll have no choice but to take federal control of the city and run the city the way it should be run and put criminals on notice that they're not going to get away with it anymore. Perhaps it should have been done a long time ago. This is an incredible young man, and so many others would have had to go through the horrors of violent crime. If this continues, I'm going to exert all my powers and federalize the city and make it great again. I don't really want to focus on what the guy looks like because it's pretty bad. Elon Musk is talking about it. Dan says, I would like to use your money, Jim. I'm getting sick of mine. Well, you do have that phony money down there in that make-believe country that you live in. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. I got sidetracked there. A few days ago, a gang of about a dozen young men tried to assault a woman in her car at night in D.C. Yes, they did. A Doge team member saw what was happening, ran to defend her, and was severely beaten to the point of concussion, but he saved her. It's time to federalize D.C. That's Elon Musk. So him and Trump are going to join forces, and they're going to do this. A contributing factor to the juvenile crime crisis in D.C. is that courts rely on GPS monitors to police criminal juveniles. The system is dangerous and deadly failure, as opposed to the Washington Post investigative report. Retrocession is the answer for the District of Columbia. Keep the federal district for federal offices and have Maryland take over the rest. D.C. suffers from poor management. Maryland can fix it. That's right. You know, what should we really be looking at doing is this thing here, which I talked about before, is there should be nobody living in the District of Columbia. People are terrified to walk in the streets. I want to pull this article up and see what it says here. Don't they have juvenile hall reform school anymore? They do have a juvenile hall in some states, but some states they don't. Most of I think a lot of the states now, the juvenile halls only go up to like 12 or 13, and then at that point they send them to regular jail if they're actually that bad. I think I'm not. Says the boys are in trouble. Maurice Jackson both missed too much school and were suspected of committing crimes. They were living with 5 other teens in a vacant apartment in southeast Washington. The place was strewn with ghost gun parts and bullets. After police raided the apartment, both boys were arrested. In D.C. Superior Court, they were charged as being a habitual runaway. Maurice was already facing criminal charges for a prior arrest. Teens were outfitted with GPS ankle monitors to track them while they were free in the community, awaiting a resolution. Youth installed on device noted court record when judge ordered him released. Charger and instructions were provided. It was Michaela's first time in a box, as many teams called it, but for Maurice, the box was nothing new. He'd worn one just a few weeks earlier. Monitors are supposed to help authorities keep watch over them. I get stay up a lot later than 2 a.m., actually. But a Washington Post investigating real D.C. juvenile court officials have lost track at-risk young people at critical moments as they have perpetrated crime or fallen victim to it, according to a trove of confidential documents and interviews with parents. Rather than secure a new way to track those, the Post found its flawed system relies on children as young as 12 to charge and maintain their own devices and has been slow to act when they go dark. 5 young people died while wearing ankle monitors under court supervision during a 6-week span in the fall of 2023. Also, in 2023, a teen wearing a monitor with a dead battery was charged in connection with the shooting death of another teen. A 16-year-old boy wearing an ankle monitor was arrested after allegedly shot and wounded 3 women. And last fall, a 12-year-old went missing after a judge admonished him for failing to charge his monitor, but released him anyway. Some teens told the Post they have to sit with their monitors attached to an electric outlet for hours to receive a charge that until recently would only last about 48 hours. One teen said the device is uncomfortable to charge while he is sleeping, so he often lets the battery die, usually with no repercussions. Hey, Wood Dogs, what's up, buddy? How you doing? Others say they don't want to charge a device that will track them and possibly link them to crimes. One 17-year-old boy told the Post that wearing a charged monitor was not a deterrent. He said he robbed several people while being tracked. It's ridiculous to say these kids charge these devices, said a former juvenile probation officer. Like several others spoke to the Post on the condition of anonymity. That's crazy. Wow. So they rely on them to charge them, and then they don't do anything if they don't charge them. Why would I charge a device that's going to connect me to a crime? It's crazy. Yet by the time Malaki and Maurice were each ordered to wear a monitor, the technology had been widely embraced by the D.C. juvenile court system. Around 125 to 150 youths a day wear GPS monitors, while facing charges arising from robberies, auto thefts, and possession of weapons, among other effects. By contrast, in the mid-2000s, the average of 40 juvenile days, mostly nonviolent offenders, wore ankle monitors under court supervision, annual reports show. One D.C. juvenile judge recently told the Post he estimates 4 out of 5 youths under court supervision will at some time wear those devices. It says the D.C. Juvenile Justice Pipeline. The series examines the district's juvenile justice system, a constellation of agencies tasked with preventing children and teens from becoming caught in a crime. Once arrested, a teen may face charges in court. The Metropolitan Police Department, D.C. Police, is often the first agency that juveniles encounter in the justice system. Criminal arrests reached record highs in 2023, leading to an outpouring of community concern. Police Chief Pamela A. Smith launched a juvenile investigative response unit to improve how police responded to youth crime. Arrest them? Doesn't that seem like it makes sense? Says the court's reliance on ankle monitors have followed a broader national embrace of technology as an alternative to juvenile incarceration. The reason we're reading this story with this Big Ball story is because the people who attacked Big Balls were 14, 15-year-old kids. A bunch of them, a whole group of them. As they say, like youths. With a growing body of research finding that jailing use does not improve recidivism rates and can cause long-term harm. So basically, I guess this thing is like, since you can't lock them up because it just makes it worse, so you just let them run the streets and make it worse, because at least then you're not, I'm thinking that's part of the problem. More than likely, that's part of the problem, is that they don't have a male role model, a male father figure. DC judges often require the ankle monitors for juveniles who have been arrested and released, allowing them to benefit from staying at school. But most of them aren't in school, so how does that make sense? And they're being with their families until their next court hearing. The monitors are rarely, if ever, used in isolation. Youths are often ordered to abide by a curfew and report for after-school programs and other services. Jobs of supervising these teens fall to probation officers who work for family services. Wow, that's weird. Oh, wait, I forgot to do this. Sorry, guys. I forgot that. My bad. Sorry. Mm-hmm. The job of supervising these teens falls on probation officers who work for family court service divisions, a small agency that is part of the federally funded D.C. Superior Court system and provides updates in an annual report to Congress. These officers keep notes on how good or bad behavior for each youth under their watch and recommend that judges loosen or tighten the rules. In some of these cases reviewed by the Post, however, judges continue to release D.C. teens on GPS monitors despite records of poor compliance. And some experts say the practice has exploded in popularity despite no evidence that it acts as an effective behavioral deterrent or rehabilitative tool for developing adolescent brains. Kate Weisberg, a law professor at the University of California, of course, in San Francisco, said she understands the appeal of ankle monitors, but it's a false narrative to assume that they improve safety or lead to better outcomes for use. Steve, I don't think there's very many people in the chat. I think there's only like 18 people watching on YouTube and probably nobody in Rumble. One person on Rumble watching, 5 people watching. Maybe. So, but I appreciate it. Keep talking, Steve. I'm talking to you. Me and you are having a conversation. We're just talking about it. It puts the onus on the young person to abide by the conditions, and it shifts the responsibility away from institutions, systems, and officials whose job it is to support. Hey, Rachel Boone, stopping in to say hi. Well, thank you very much. Nice to see you from the old Rumble Pies. Former juvenile defense attorney who has studied the rise of GPS monitoring says it's just a black box. It doesn't educate young people, doesn't rehabilitate them. It doesn't substitute for going to school and getting counseling and stuff like that. It's like a poor Band-Aid solution, if you will. Terry Odom, longtime director of the Court Service Division, left her position in February, 2 days after the Post requested an interview with her to discuss the deaths of juveniles under her agency supervision. Odom, who said she previously announced her intention to retire after 20 years of employment, referred to questions to her current court official. Court spokesman Doug Buchanan declined to make any court officials, including the chief judge and the interim director, available for interviews. They issued a written statement saying the division continues to direct extensive efforts to increase the safety of youth under their supervision. In addition to GPS monitoring, the agency conducts home and school visits, facilitates family group conferences, provides tutoring and mentoring services, and does curfew checks. Buchanan suggested that the Post had focused only on cases with tragic outcomes. They're supposed to ignore the cases with tragic outcomes? Court and our staff make rulings and reach difficult decisions every day, and we will continue to do so as we play our part in helping to pave a path for a brighter future for the district. Wow, they really think it's doing anything? Post asked the spokesman and court officials are any research showing that electronic monitoring improves outcomes in the juvenile justice system. None was provided. The spokesperson for Securus Monitoring, the company that provides the ankle monitors for DC, said that the technology supports public safety efforts and referred questions to local officials. The district's deputy mayor for public safety and justice said she believes GPS can be an effective tool for certain teens, but only when used with extensive safeguards. When they violate the conditions, there really does have to be escalating levels of reaction. Well, yeah, and consequences. I don't think it's working that way it was intended. As Malaki and Maurice each walked out of the courthouse in early December 2022, monitors strapped to their ankles gave them a chance to start anew. It was a familiar gamble of sorts, with courts officials relying on devices to help reform the boys' mistakes, as it turns out, would be life or death. How the boys became friends is unclear, but Malaki, oh, that's a weird way to, Mylaki is pronounced Malaki. Wow. They were both raised by young, single black mothers in Southeast Washington neighborhoods where gun violence was common. Well, go figure. The district of crime. Brittany Malloy, Maurice's mother, quipped in a post interview, shaking her head. Neither boy had a close relationship with their father. Maurice's was locked up in 2008 when his son was an infant and stayed behind bars all of his son's childhood, first for armed robbery and then for murder. The identity of Malachi's father is uncertain, said his mother. Tai Schwang Young, both of the men who possibly fathered him were shot and killed in separate homicides. Both of the men who possibly fathered him were shot and killed in separate homicides in Southeast Washington. And Tushane Malachi and his little brother stayed at a homeless shelters and friends' apartments before securing a housing voucher for an apartment, a stretch of road in Southeast notorious for shootings. Family often heard gunfire. One day, bullets from a drive-by pierced the neighbor's wall. Shane wanted out. In 2018, her boys moved into an apartment on Connecticut Avenue. Wow. I was a teen mom who took care of my children. Even without a father, I took care of them. Did you? So when he started high school at what became Jackson Reed in Tenleytown, he made new friends. In 2022, during the spring of his second year, 15-year-old stayed out hours past the 9:30 curfew, and said she set for him. Sometimes he wouldn't come home at all. Oh, trying to send Jim a rant. Okay, let's see. Is it working? Oh, I don't see it. I don't see any rant. Well, she should have did something. I guess you call I don't know what you would do if he's staying out, whatever. You got to do some kind of punishments or something. She called the police, which prepared several missing person reports. Oh. Hi. Oh, look at this. This is my grandson. He just woke up. Look at. He's very tired. Give me 1 minute, all right? Let me put him in bed. I will play a short video clip while I take care of this. Oh, boy. Let's see. So this is Alex Marquardt out at CNN after Navy veteran defamation suit cost $5 million. So I don't know if you guys know, there was this guy, CNN guy who sued, or a Navy veteran guy who sued CNN because they defamed him. CNN national security correspondent Alex Marquardt is leaving the outlet after 8 years after his reporting on Navy veteran Zachary Young cost CNN $5 million following a defamation suit. Oh. Here's the suit. The CNN liable for defaming Navy veteran Jake Tapper. Segment $5 million awarded. We'll go back though and read the other story. So, some personal news. I'm leaving CNN after 8 years. 8 terrific years. Tough to say goodbye, but it's been an honor to work among the very best in the business. Profound thank you to my comrades. Comrades? That sounds commie to me. Comrades. Very communistic. Okay. National security team, the phenomenal teammates I'm working with, the U.S. and abroad, Marquardt wrote. Former CNN correspondent Oliver Darcy said that CNN had dismissed Marquardt, citing editorial differences. Marquardt was at the center of the defamation case filed against CNN by Young, who in 2021 was working to evacuate Afghans during the Biden administration's chaotic military withdrawal from that nation. Per the Daily Mail, Marquardt wrote to members of the team that worked on the November 2021 report, "We're going to nail the Zachary Young MFer." The message was part of texts that were used against Marquardt in the case. Marquardt reported was aired on The Lead with Jake Tapper. The episode in which it premiered opened with Tapper claiming that Afghans attempted to flee the nation faced a black market full of promises, demand of exorbitant fees, and no guarantee of safety or success. Wait, so Jake Tapper is a scumbag, is what this says? Or was it his editor? Are they blaming it on his editor? I wonder. I wonder if they're blaming it on his editor. Tapper then cut to Marquardt, who claimed that an Afghan man located in the U.S. had found people on Facebook charging $10,000 to evacuate people from Afghanistan. You know, that is a very good question, Doc. How does this guy get canned, but Tapper still has his job? Somehow they were able to put the blame on this guy. Maybe he was the editor. Maybe he was the researcher. He was the staff producer who came up with the story and was supposed to vet it. And that's about the only way I can think of it, how Tapper still has a job. Besides, Tapper's still kind of a famous name. He claimed that desperate Afghans are now being exploited and used B-roll that featured a LinkedIn post from Young. Young had said during the trial that he never accepted money from those needing rescue, and that he had relied on corporate and NGO sponsorships to help. CNN issued an apology, retraction, and removed the segment after Young filed his suit in 2022, which came to a conclusion in January. In an interview recorded outside the court, Marquardt said he did not necessarily agree with the outlet issuing an apology and did not believe the report was an error. Oh, so that's why he was fired. That he stuck by his guns and claimed that, that it wasn't, they shouldn't have apologized, and he didn't think it was an error after. So that's why they fired him, because they're like, yeah, asshole, you cost us money and you were wrong. Okay. One juror said that the testimony was the final straw for her after being put off by the text between the correspondent and his team that suggested they were out to get Young. Marquardt was arrogant. He acted as though he really didn't need to be there, she said in an interview after the case concluded, like he was far too important to be sitting there on a witness stand. Kind of saw that today. I don't know if anybody watched the Karen Reed trial today. There was that female police officer who originally told the FBI agents that interviewed her that she saw the chief of police and the ATF guy, Higgins, go into the Sallyport where the truck was, and they spent a lot of time there. And then after she got a new job with the Boston Police Department, some new person talked to her and told her, do what's right, and this and that. And the Karen Reed case. And now she changed her story and that she wasn't working. They showed her proof she wasn't working, even though there's video of supposedly showing her in there. And who knows? But she came off very condescending and very untrustworthy, and that whole thin blue line or whatever they call it, or blue wall of silence. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't feel the need to apologize. We heard that over and over again. She later added, it was obvious to the entire jury that Marquardt was out to get him. So, yeah, so that guy's out at CNN. I didn't realize it was such a short story. Sorry. So, I guess we could go and look at the defamation suit thing real quick. That guy got fired. So, yeah. So here's the thing, it says on Friday, a Florida jury found CNN guilty of defamation in a case brought forth by U.S. Navy veteran Zachary Young. Is it Zachary? All right. Let's get back to the other story. But first, I want to pull this down. Rachel was asking about let's see, I can put this up. This is a PayPal tip jar in the top right corner. I think you could do tips to PayPal with that if you scan this PayPal. Other than that, I think the PayPal account could be found Satala Consulting LLC, I think, is on PayPal. It's like right where it says on locals, and the same thing on PayPal, if I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, so this is the story of these people. Tashawn said she installed a camera in her bedroom to deter him from climbing out the window, but on October 3rd, he left again. He stopped showing up at school. He would answer some calls. Yeah, for PayPal, it's Satala Consulting LLC. For PayPal. I can fix that too. Fix this banners. Hold on. Like this. And then I can do this. Okay. So we got this. All right. Sorry about that, people. I was trying to, she wanted, Rachel Boone was saying something about PayPal, and I was trying to get her the information. So like I said, there's a tip jar for PayPal up there, or it's Satala Consulting LLC on PayPal. When he wasn't working shifts as security guard, she tried to find him, scouring aisles at CVS. By mid-November, a prosecutor with the Office of D.C. Attorney sought to classify him as a person in need of supervision. Under statute that allows juvenile court to intervene with habitual runaways, judge signed off on the order empowering law enforcement to encounter and take him into custody. But first, they had to find him. Said Maurice had a bright future and he went missing. These, someone stole his sneakers, but he was robbed a second time. Because of his mother's privacy concern, the post agreed to withhold most of the details about his home life, inclusive family's involvement with the DC Child and Family Services as well. But his legislative committed involving usually kept confidential for juveniles and crimes. He was installed a device for a few weeks. His behavior improved. He attended a wedding. His probation officer commended him for being responsive to his calls. The judge allowed Maurice to have an ankle monitor removed and extend his curfew to 8 p.m. Compliance soon backtracked. When probation tried to reach him for a curfew check, his phone was turned off. He had 23 unexcused absences. Officer agreed. Oh, you're back, Rachel? Well, if you look on the top right corner of the screen, up here on the top right corner, I posted a tip jar for PayPal, which I don't know if that's what you're talking about. And also on the bottom, my PayPal is Satala Consulting LLC. It's Satala Consulting, CONSULTING LLC. So I don't know if that helps. If that's what you were looking for. The adults, they broke around December 7th. The police violent crime, detectives carjacking, force raided at third border post. These guys are all found in an apartment with a bunch of guns and everything. Wow. So that's what's going on in D.C. That's what's going on in D.C. That's crazy. Crazy. Federalizing D.C. isn't about politics, it's about restoring order. Local leaders fail to protect citizens, federal intervention becomes necessary. Recent attacks underscore a systemic breakdown. Criminals act without fear because accountability vanishes under weak governance. Crime data shows progress, but one assault is one too many. Law enforcement must prioritize victims over perpetrators. Federal control would ensure swift justice, enforce consequences for violent acts, and send a clear message. America's capital won't tolerate lawlessness. Safety isn't negotiable. It's the foundation of a functional society. Big Ballz is an American hero. We ought to massively boost police presence in D.C., and I think it should be federal. It's unacceptable to have rampant crime on our streets, especially in the nation's capital. No kidding. Federalize the police in D.C., move the D.C. judiciary, who are a complete disgrace. This is his name. Breaking Ed Korstein, aka Big Balls, was the Dodge hero that saved a woman from being assaulted in her car. In DC, multiple sources confirm Big Balls really lived with his name. Multiple teens surrounded the woman's car, attempting to carjack her, and Big Balls stepped in to save her. No kidding, it was him. It's both incredible and infuriating at the same time. I couldn't confirm it was him based on a photo, so I waited until I could hear back from DC LE sources. Turns out it was him. We need more Big Balls. He's got the biggest balls of them all. Why aren't you reporting the race? This is because DC police won't confirm it to me, but you and I both know they're... Yes. Wow, the Doge employee who was brutally beaten in DC for defending a woman has been identified none other than Big Balls. Big Balls is a hero. He deserves a Medal of Freedom. He can drink for free at Butterworth as long as he's over 21. If I ever run into this guy, I'm buying him a drink. American hero, deserves a Presidential Medal of Freedom. Gives up a paying job to save us money. Well, I don't know. Do you have a phone here, Rachel? It says you're trying. You're not tech savvy. Like I said, it's trying to think how I could do it. Give me 1 second. I think I could do it in Rumble. I think I can post a link in Rumble. Let me give me 1 second. What is going on here? I don't know. Sorry, everybody. Okay. That was this is thrilling. I know I was trying to do something. I'm sorry. Big Balls did that. So I'm going to put this I'll put this back on for a second. I don't know. Against Jake Tapper and his network. Young alleged that Tapper defamed him on the show. The verdict came after 8 hours of deliberation. That's not very long, 8 hours. Oof. Young was working to evacuate Afghans in August 2021. Tapper misrepresented Young and his work, and Young stated he wasn't able to work since. CNN was ordered to pay compensatory damages, with the jurors still needing to decide how much the outlet will pay in punitive damages. The damage will be at least $5 million. In the sum, they write jurors awarded Young $4 million for lost employment, $1 million for pain and suffering. Yeah. Yeah, and hyphenated, that's my opinion, is that female officer came off bad. You know, did not look good. And said CNN should also be subjected to punitive damages. So I wonder if they settled it and just fired him and didn't pay the punitive damages. According to the Free Beacon, Young alleged that a segment which aired on the lead of Jake Tapper singled him out as an illegal profiteer who operated a black market. Young said that the segment irreparably destroyed his business. Nemex Enterprises and Reputation worked to evacuate Afghans during the Biden-Harris administration deadly and chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. He testified that since the segment ran, he hasn't worked or made money. During closing arguments, CNN attorney David Axelrod claimed that the story was accurate and tough but fair. So David Axelrod, David Axelrod isn't that a political guy? The black-haired guy with the mustache, the Clinton guy, he was their attorney. They should have got a better attorney. He's not that good. And claimed that Young should have gone out of his way to convince journalists with the outlet that he wasn't shady. That's not how it works. You don't have to. They're going to run a story claiming you're shady. They need to have some proof. It's not up to you to prove you're not shady. That's not how this country works. That's not the way any of this works. No. It's not to smear you and you prove your innocence. No. CNN, these places all need to go bankrupt. Mr. Young put himself in the story, not CNN. He inserted himself into it to make a buck, Axelrod told the jury. He added, use your common sense. Do you see a conspiracy or do you see people doing their best? Yeah, no, I don't think so. David Friedman, Young's lead attorney, told jurors, this is supposed to be the most trusted name in news. CNN is so arrogant that they're used to getting whatever they want. But they stand up here, they talk down to us with bold-faced lies about what the segment's gist really is, and they expect you to believe it. I mean, do they really think we're all stupid? Yes. The narrator says, yes, CNN thinks you're all stupid. During the opening statements, Friedman said that they were able to confirm that 1.6 million people viewed the broadcast, with a high-range estimates hitting 2.7. The correction was seen by 942,000 people, but let's be honest, the correction didn't do anything. It doesn't matter. The man can't get hired. It doesn't matter how many people saw it. They issued a correction because they were trying to get out of a lawsuit. Yeah, I would say, Evergreen, that female, well, she said it perfectly on the stand that if she didn't get up there and say what she said, she was going to lose her job. They were going to fire her. They would have pushed her out of the Boston Police Department. She had a choice to make. You know, you can look at it any way you want. But definitely look at it any way you want. All right, let's get back to this. This guy gives up a high-paying job, saves a woman from assault from 8 men. God bless him. We take down the George Floyd statue and put up one of a man who actually defends women. They beat him half to death all because he tried to protect a woman in D.C. His name Big Ballz, former Doge employee, a real man. While teens roam free stabbing and mugging, this guy stood up. They call him the problem. America doesn't need more laws. It needs more men like him. Definitely. Definitely. Those staffer, known as Big Ballz, came to the help of a lady in D.C. Yeah. Big Ballz. Big Ballz attacked D.C. a few days ago. A gang of about a dozen men tried to assault a woman. Doge members saw what was happening and tried to help her. It's time to federalize D.C. Yes. This is 2 teens who attacked Doge's course in time have been arrested per D.C. police. They must not release them. They must make them pay. He saved a young woman. Both suspects were 15-year-old black teens, 1 male, 1 female. Wow. So Northwest D.C., Swan Street, put them in prison. And Mike Lee saying, we passed the Bowser Act, we revoke D.C. home rule, we govern Washington through Congress as the Constitution originally provided. Our nation's capital deserves to be a shining example to the world, not a national embarrassment. D.C. is totally out of control. Local youths and gang members, some only 14 to 15 years old, are randomly attacking, mugging, maiming, and shooting innocent citizens at the same time, knowing that they will almost immediately be released. That's crazy. See what this says. The Constitution already federalizes D.C. We just need Congress to do its job and reassert its lawmaking power over the nation's capital city. It would be nice if they did, right? Definitely. Bowser Act would do just that. Please share if you agree it's time to fix this. The Bowser Act is a constitutional necessity. DC's crime crisis, violent offenses down 35%. Tell that to the congressional staffers assaulted daily. Home rules failure isn't statistic. It's a reality for residents trapped in a city where carjackings and corruptions thrive. Congress has a duty to restore order. The Constitution grants federal authority over the Capitol for a reason. DC statehood? No way. Distraction from basic governance. Secure the city first and debate representation later. Federal oversight isn't overreach. It's accountability for a city that can't police its own streets and politicians. Facts behind DC's governance failures and the case for federal interventions are laid bare here. Well, we've been going 1 hour, so I'm going to say goodbye to the people on Twitter, on X. If you want to continue watching, come over to YouTube or Rumble or Facebook or Instagram. We'll still be on. So if you're on X, Twitter, thank you for being here and for watching, a few of you that did, and come on back another day for Jim to tell you some more news. All right, now that they're gone, it's just us. Yes, thank you, Rachel Boone. Thank you very much for the $5. This says the Bowser Act is exactly what DC needs, a constitutional reset. The Home Rule Act turned the nation's capital into a playground for failed local governance with crime spiraling out of control, unchecked, while bureaucrats prioritize politics over safety. Based, Jim. Thank you. J-Rock. Congress has both the authority and duty to reclaim control under Article 1, Section 8. When DC's murder rate hits historic highs and council members face bribery charges weekly, it's not a home rule, it's chaos. Lee's bill doesn't just repeal incompetence, it enforces accountability. Federalizing DC isn't optional anymore, it's survival. And this is Rep. Anna Ogle said, my team just got off the phone with the mother of the congressional intern who was murdered just months ago. The urban youths of DC are killing people, and the city's leadership is doing nothing. Base Mike Lee and I have a solution. Repeal DC home rule and take back the city. People are dead because DC's city council let violent thugs run loose. We will prevail. Yes. It's not totally up to Trump. The Congress, I think, has to do something. They should have done it long ago. Let's go. Let's roll. It's not just Washington. It's happening in every major city across the country. Pure lawlessness and innocent victims are created daily with zero accountability. Crime is not down because inner city governments are not doing it. Crime is down because inner city governments are not doing their job. They are underreporting, misreporting, and reduced felonies and misdemeanors. As well, allegations of the Metropolitan Police Department, D.C. Department, downgrading felonies exist. E.g., a July 2025 investigation suspended Commander Pulliam for altering stats. Per FOP claims of widespread manipulation, official data still shows a 25 to 28% violent crime drop. J-Rex says, it's nice to have your own channel. I remember you in the other chats from 2 and 3 years ago. Yeah, well, I've been in chats for quite a while. Yeah, I know, it's nice to know him. I debated on starting my channel. And I've been doing it for almost a year now, and it kind of was just like messing around. And then like in the past few months, I've gotten a little more serious with doing streams every night, trying to be more focused and have actual plans on what to talk about. I mean, I do like to have other people and just kind of talk with them, but that, I don't know, like that doesn't really seem as focused. Like what people would want to see, I would think to, have some kind of a show, actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do it yesterday, the Bowser Act. All right. Trump threatens to federalize D.C. Trump prepares a federal takeover of D.C. after a big Ballz Doge employee was beat up by a bunch of thugs. President Donald Trump expanded his proposal for a federal takeover of Washington, D.C., saying will stop violent crime in the city by young thugs. The president said that a young man who worked for Doge was very badly hurt, beat up by a bunch of thugs in D.C. The identity of the 19-year-old young man involved in the reported incident is Edward Corstine, famously nicknamed Big Ballz by his peers. My friend Big Ballz is a hero, wrote Corstine's friend Marco Elise on X, who said that took this photo after Edward protected a young woman from attempted carjacking by 8 thugs near DuPont Circle. Violence like this in the heart of D.C. is completely unacceptable, Elise concluded. Big Ballz was part of a group of brilliant youngsters working into the night, sleeping at the office couches and surviving on pizza and Red Bull as part of Musk's original Doge crew. Trump appeared furious about the news. Either we're going to straighten out their act in terms of government and in terms of protection, or we're going to have to federalize and run it the way it's supposed to be run, he said. Early Tuesday, the president posted his thoughts on the matter on social media, describing crime in Washington, D.C. as totally out of control, especially among youths who were just 14, 15, 16 years old. That's right, Trump's going to get you. He said the young people were randomly attacking, mugging, maiming, and shooting innocent citizens because they know they would get released as minors. They're not afraid of law enforcement because there's nothing ever happens to them, but it's going to happen now. The president posted an image of the young Doge employee who was allegedly beaten with blood streaming down his face. Further details of the alleged attack were not available as the U.S. Attorney's Office in Washington, D.C. declined to share specific details about the incident. No one who lives, works in, or visits D.C. should experience this. It's horrific and disturbing. I cannot comment on specific cases, but know that when MPD brings us cases with sufficient evidence of juveniles who have broken the law and hurt people, we will prosecute them and ensure they face consequences for their actions. Attorney General Brian Schwab said in a statement to the Daily Mail. That must be the Attorney General of D.C., so it's not like D.C. shouldn't have all these separate people doing it. It's the federal government, so it should be under the U.S. attorneys. They should be bound by federal law. The home rule needs to go away. Trump urges officials to change the laws to prosecute violent teenage criminals, to prosecute minors as adults. Washington, D.C. must be safe, clean, and beautiful for all Americans, and importantly for the world to see. If D.C. doesn't get their act together and quickly, we'll have no choice but to take federal control of the city. Elon Musk also expressed concern about this incident on social media. Trump was right about everything that, claiming that a gang of about a dozen men tried to assault a woman in her car. A Doge team member saw what was happening, ran a defender, and was severely beaten to the point of concussion, but he saved her. It's time to federalize D.C. Earlier in the day, Jeanine Pirro, Trump's new United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, also vowed to get tough on crime and posted a video from the White House. Our job is to get guns off the street, drugs off the street, and take care of those individuals that are threatening and carjacking other people, and that's what we're going to do. He said, if you don't buy into it, you're going to have to deal with us. I mean, I think D.C. would be a lot safer if they let more people carry guns in D.C. because people would defend themselves, I would think. Oh, then I had this Washington Post story, but look, it says, ways to read this article. Create an account. You can read it for free. If you get a certain number of a thing, and then this, but then I could do this too. I could just go, haha. Trump threatens federal takeover of D.C. after attack on Doge worker. He's going to get you. Trump's going to get you. A protege of Elon Musk and former Doge staffer was injured in an attempted carjacking early Sunday morning in D.C. People familiar with the incident said an attack that captured the attention of President Trump and re-inspired his threats to take over the nation's capital. If D.C. doesn't get her act together quickly, we will have no choice but to take federal control of the city and run the city how it should be run. Criminals on notice are not going to get away with it anymore. Billionaire Elon Musk, who helmed Doge, wrote on X that a Doge team member was attacked and called to federalize D.C. Trump's true social post accompanied an image of the young person smeared in blood. D.C. police have arrested 2 people, a department spokesman said. Year-to-date, violent crime is down 26% in the district. Trump called for children's... is it really down? I mean, is it just because they're getting illegals out? I mean, what's going on? Perhaps it should have been a long time ago, but this incredible young man with so many others would have to go through the horrors of violent crime. She said, Pirro said, our job... See, I don't get guns off the street. No, people should be able... The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, so stop trying to take people's guns away, Pirro. All I have to say about that. They declined to comment. D.C. Attorney General Brian Schwab said he could not comment, but he called it disturbing. No one who lives, works, and visits D.C. should experience this. Since earlier this year, he moved into new roles as a senior advisor at the State Department and Department of Homeland Security, raising concerns about some diplomats about his potential access to sensitive information. I mean, anybody who works for the government has access to sensitive information. They just try to make a big deal about it. We're going to have to keep an eye on this. Hopefully they'll get it under control. Yep. Trump is threatening to federalize D.C. over the lax punishment of youth crime. What do you say? I say do it. You vote Trump is threatening to federalize D.C. over lax punishment. What do you say? Trump's threatening to end D.C. home rule if the city does not crack down on a crime committed by minors, insisting that district's lenient attitudes towards underage criminals has emboldened them. I would say it has emboldened them quite a bit. Crime in Washington, D.C. is totally out of control. They're attacking people, they're mugging people. They're not afraid of law enforcement because they know nothing will ever happen to them. It's going to happen now. Most recent victim was beaten mercilessly by thugs. Well, we think we remember most of this. Yeah, he should do it. Yes, do it. Cool. 97% say they should do it, so I think that's what they should do. Oh, here's this. Okay, on to the next story. So that was the first story tonight. And it almost just took us over an hour to do that. Well, actually, it wasn't the first story. It was like the second story. But on to this story now. A true American hero. Breaking news that the new FBI and Department of Homeland Security documents uncovered by Judicial Watch show that the Biden administration covered up for U.S. counterintelligence concerns about Tim Walz's connection to the communist Chinese government. This is a major scandal. Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton said. In 2020, Mike Pompeo called out all of the United States governors that were in China's pocket. So let's see what he has to say.
Think tank in Beijing produced a report that assessed all 50 of America's governors on their attitudes towards China. They labeled each of you friendly, hardline, or ambiguous. I'll let you decide where you think you belong. Someone in China already has. Many of you indeed in that report are referenced by name. So here's the lesson. The lesson is that competition with China is not just a federal issue. It's why I wanted to be here today, Governor Hogan. It's happening in your states with consequences for our foreign policy, for the citizens that reside in your states, and indeed for each of you. Think tank in Beijing produced a report that assessed all 50 of America's governors on their attitudes towards China. They labeled each of you friendly, hardline, or ambiguous. I'll let you decide where you think you belong. Someone in China already has. Many of you indeed in that
I have a feeling that Joe's people are going to be coming in any minute.
So here's the lesson. The lesson is that competition with China is not just a federal issue. It's why I wanted to be here today, Governor Hogan. It's happening in your states with consequences for our foreign policy, for the citizens that reside in your states. And
China is so deep up our butts.
Think tank in Beijing.
Yeah, a think tank in Beijing. I didn't realize that. Yeah, who knew that Tim Walz was doing this stuff? Yeah. So here's the Judicial Watch report. So China is happy. Emails reveal Biden, DHS, and FBI investigations of Tim Walz and Communist China. Mm-hmm. Judicial Watch announced it received 47 pages of records from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and a Freedom of Information Act request lawsuit about Governor Tim Walz's connections to China. Tim Walz's connections to the Chinese Communist Party, DHS, and FBI counterintelligence investigation into Walz CCP connections determined China is happy with Walz being selected by Kamala Harris as a running mate. And Walz's connections to CCP were extensive and concerned to the intelligence community, according to documents produced. Documents released in response to Judicial Watch March 2025 FOIA lawsuit. All documents and communications in the DHS Microsoft Teams group chat from July 1st to present include a company uploaded embedded stuff. Oh, definitely. Mm-hmm. All intelligence information reports and regional intelligence note included from November 1st to present related to Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. All requested assistance or referrals. All emails dated, officially named the Vice President show Homeland Security personnel discussing how they were Communist China had a plan to target politicians likely to end up in D.C. Yeah, Joe Raid. That's awesome. Joe Raid. Awesome, Joe Raid. All the Joe Raiders, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Just great and wonderful. Right now, everybody that just showed up, we're talking about Tim Walz's connections to the Communist Chinese Party and how Joe Biden's people covered it up. That's what we're talking about. Homeland Security official whose name is redacted states, Walz has got the VP. You all have no idea how this feeds into what the PRC, the People's Republic of China, has been doing here with him and local governments. A serious line of intel. Target someone who is perceived they can get to the DC. Another official responds, this speaks to the RIN, raw intelligence we reviewed. The participant says the perception narrative that has been pushed with one of the local NGOs had direct ties to former governor here in Nevada. FBI has lead on a couple of things, and its only issue being in the Ninth Circuit. Good to know there are involvement with HIS and FBI here on things. Another one adds, if it's going to interest, I can provide context. Official noted this has one more strategic impact. Harris number 2 taught in China. Chinese internet reacts to Walz. Yes. The article states Walz spent a year in southeastern province of Guangdong in 89 on a topic that was trending in Weibo with 12 million views. The fact that it's happened in 89, the year of Tiananmen Square massacre, was not lost on those commenting on Chinese social media sites. In other group chat says China is happy. Another noted you need components. Group chat, the FBI mission to CI counterintelligence field believes we need to get included. So yeah, so this is all crazy stuff. So they knew all about this and they didn't say a word. Yeah. Thank you, Vince Olshov, for coming. Thank you to all the people that are here for Joe's stream. If you're new to my channel, please think about giving me a subscription. Subscribe to my channel. It doesn't cost anything. I do these shows 5 to 6 nights a week. I do shows and I cover news and stuff. And if you like the topics that Joe's covers, I'm just going to say it. Almost all of the topics Joe covers are things that I send him. I send him emails every day with a list of topics and links and stuff for his shows. And I try to cover all the stuff that I send out. Hey, Nacho Kitty. Hi, nice to see you. KPT, good to see you. Salty C, nice to everyone to be here. It's 260 people here. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel. Please leave a comment, and we're going to go through some stuff here and talk about some stuff. Yeah. House Oversight Committee James Comer said Homeland Security whistleblower told the committee that Walz was a target of the Chinese Communist Party as someone they can get to D.C. Whistleblower also disclosed that officials from DHS and analysis of Homeland Security have been involved in the department's investigation concerning the connections of the CCP, the state of Minnesota, and Governor Walz. What's CITF is where's that at? I'm not sure. Where was that at? Oh, Executive Agency, CITFE, what is that? The Counterintelligence Task Force, CIFT. Counterintelligence Task Force, CITF. Counterintelligence Task Force. Person who requested a meeting with Walz was Chang Wang, and he was a Ching Chong Chinaman. Is a U.S. citizen, attorney, and adjunct professor at the University of Minnesota and vice chair of the Council on Asia Pacific Minnesotans. Wang writes to Walz that he fears being forcibly detained upon an upcoming visit to China. He also includes a copy of his itinerary while in China, which includes him being a witness in a court case. One participant responds, I read this as a TNR, but what am I missing? That's what it looks like, begs the question, if he anticipates being detained, why go? Weird. I know, right? Another group chat, I'm working with HSI investigations on it. So these people were communicating with him. People were communicating with him about what they're doing in China, trying to get his help with the Chinese government. That's weird. Can you reach Redact as well, my China lead? A group chat participants, mind you, if he's a known dissident, then probably were pressuring him while he was in the U.S. If he went back anyway, novelist style, and he got pinched, it's just part of what might not be treated as TNR. There's no TNR statute per se. So the FBI investigates its elements underlying. Not my area, itinerary, blah, blah, blah. Could be related. These documents that covered by Judicial Watch show that the Biden administration covered up intelligence concerns about Tim Walz's connections to China. This is a major scandal, said Judicial Watch President Tom Fitton. Here's this. China is happy. New memos expose Homeland Security's concerns about Tim Walz's CCP connections. Who knew? They knew. Yes, they knew. Mm-hmm. China is happy. New memos expose Homeland Security's concerns about Walz's CCP connection. The newly released internal memos confirmed the Department of Homeland Security and FBI had longstanding concerns about Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and his connections to the Chinese Communist Party, especially after he was selected by Kamala Harris as her presidential running mate last year. Homeland Security turned over documents to the watchdog group Judicial Watch, which had filed a Freedom of Information Act FOIA request and sued the government earlier this year, seeking communications in an agency group chat that allegedly referenced a probe into Walz. The existence of those messages was shared with the House Oversight Committee last year by whistleblowers, but the Biden-era DHS resisted turning over responsive documents. Just so you can speed read, skip paragraphs, and still get context and details? Yeah, why? That's not good? You want me to read all the garbage? I mean, I try to keep it concise and just give you what's going on. That's what you come here for. It's for me to speed read. China is happy when Homeland Security employee wrote an explosive message to their group chat. Bi-weekly sync. One day after Harris announced Walz as her running mate, the memo shows employee linked a BBC News article detailing Chinese internet reactions to the choice, which were reported as largely positive. In response, another employee whose name is also redacted suggested looping in the FBI due to its responsibility for domestic counterintelligence. With the FBI mission in the CI field, counterintelligence, believe they need to get included. Though it's unclear what roles and employees in the group had in the department at the time, the message showed the group constituted a team of investigators primarily concerned with monitoring sub-national engagement by Chinese with American officials. Documents provide the clearest evidence yet of the alarm bells sounding in U.S. government counterintelligence circles about the Minnesota governor's selection to be Harris's running mate. Those concerns stem from Walz's long-standing ties to China and favorable interactions with its governing Communist Party, dating back years. You can read the communications below. Tom Fitton praised Homeland Security for making the documents public in a lawsuit after the Biden-era agency stonewalled requests. This is every bit as important as the Russiagate disclosures. The Biden gang obviously covered it all up by trying to rig the election. Governor Walz's office did not respond. Last year, the Oversight Committee launched a probe after learning the whistleblowers that investigators had serious concern about the governor's visits to China, interactions with Chinese officials over several years. However, the Biden administration introduced, including Homeland Security and FBI, was reluctant to turn over responsive documents. Chairman Comer subpoenaed Homeland Security last September as part of the committee's ongoing probe into the CCP's influence in the United States. And just months before the presidential election, the committee's investigation of the CCP began long before Governor Walz was elevated to vice president candidate by Kamala Harris, and they seek to understand the extent of the CCP's infiltration and influence campaign and to identify legislative reforms to combat the CCP political warfare targeting prominent Americans for elite capture, Comer wrote in a subpoena cover letter. So I'd like also to see, I don't think your chat got deleted, Vince. It's right here. It says redirected from Joe's stream. And then was there one between this one and this one, Vince? I guess I'd have to look and see if something was placed on hold. I don't see anything. I don't see anything that was on hold or anything like that was put on hold. There was one between. Sometimes if there's a word, YouTube is very weird now. There's a lot of words that, like, if you use certain words and I don't even know what words they are, and they're not even bad words. Like if you write the word Twitter in there, sometimes YouTube will just block that chat because they don't want you to talk about other social media or something. I don't know. I don't get it. In particular, if a state governor or major political party's nominee for vice president of the United States has been a witting or unwitting participant in the CCP's effort to weaken our nation, this would strongly suggest that there's an alarming weakness in the federal government's effort to defend the United States from the CCP's political warfare that must be urgently addressed. When the department resisted, Comer released a small portion of the communications, providing the first look into the internal agency discussions. Walz got the VP. You all have no idea how this feeds into what PRC has been doing here with him and local government. Just the news previously reported it's a serious line of intel. Someone targets someone who is perceived they can get to DC. Well, I mean, that's what they did. I mean, they've been on him. And he's been part of it. That's why I don't know. The 47-page batch provided to Judicial Watch. The new memo also appears to confirm the FBI was also looking into Walz's China connections, making it the second government agency to raise concern. One employee wrote in a group chat that they were good to know, and yes, the involvement with the HSI, which is the Homeland Security Investigation Division, and the FBI is on it. Oversight Committee also sought information from FBI about information the Bureau had developed on Walz's trips to China and interactions with the CCP-affiliated groups. The committee specifically wanted to know whether Walz received any warnings from the FBI about Chinese influence operations. I want everybody to understand, too, that there was also the reporting about the driver's licenses that they confiscated at O'Hare Airport before 2020 election, like 50,000, 60,000 driver's licenses. And they had information, the FBI had information that the Chinese were going to try to influence the election to help Kamala win. And it was, something about ballots and everything. So, just saying, things might be connected. During the campaign, Walz faced scrutiny from Republicans for his history with China, dating back to his stint as an English teacher in 1989, just months after the Chinese government cracked down on pro-democracy protesters in the Tiananmen Square massacre. Walz was also unable to answer whether he was in Hong Kong at the time of the protest, as he originally claimed. The smell of burning tires is the cat's pajamas in communist China. Yeah, the FBI had the information. They hid it, definitely. I try to read along, but it's too fast for my brain-eye coordination. I have dyslexia. If I try to scan a paragraph, it's just a mess. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that's what the driver's license is dangerous. Were not in Chinese people's names. They were in Americans' names with Chinese people's pictures on them with fake information. Obviously, apparently, allegedly, in an effort to use them to be able to vote. Oh, meet the parents. By the 1990s, Walt's experience with the communist-run country deepened. As a high school teacher in Nebraska, Walz began organizing regular trips to China for high school students. Why? He reportedly took about 30 trips beginning in 1993. Who paid for all these trips? It is super expensive to go to China. And for a high school teacher to be able to afford to make these trips, I mean, you're talking about thousands of dollars just on airfare per person. The costs were covered in part by the Chinese government, according to reports cited by the Oversight Committee. So the Chinese government was paying for all these trips. I think he might be a commie. In addition to the numerous trips to China with his students, Walz also welcomed a delegation of Chinese Communist Party officials to his classroom in Nebraska when he was a teacher. Wow, that's nuts. That is nuts. He also reportedly praised the Chinese communist system, saying everyone is the same and everyone shares in China. Apparently, at least, before organizing the student trips, Walt spoke approvingly of the Chinese system, including the equality of workers and the provision of basic needs by the state. It means that everyone is the same and everyone shares, Waltz told the Alliance Times Herald, Nebraska newspaper. So, like, everyone is the same. So, but some people are more, that's kind of like that Animal Farm. Some people are more the same than others, like Animal Farm. It means that everyone shares is the same and everyone shares. The doctor and the construction worker make the same. Yeah. So you want a doctor that makes the same as your garbage man? Yeah, that works. Chinese government and the place they work for provide housing and 14 kilograms or 30 pounds of rice per month. They get food and housing. Recently, Walz had continued to express pro-China sentiments. In the wake of Israel's bombing attack on Iran earlier this year, the governor and former vice presidential candidate suggested that only China might have the moral authority to negotiate a peace agreement between the two countries. Yeah. It's more equal than others. Sorry, yeah, I misspoke. Yeah. Yes. All animals are created equal, but some animals are more equal than others. Yeah. Equal provision of basic spellers get more. Sure. Who in the voice in the world can negotiate some type of agreement in this? Who holds the moral authority? Who holds the ability to do that? Because we are not seen as a neutral actor, and maybe we never were. Waltz told ex-Biden advisor Neera Tanden at the Center for American Progress event. Wow. He later suggested it might be the Chinese. Well, it may be the Chinese, but not the Chinese in the Communist Party. Maybe the Chinese, the real Chinese, who are located in Taiwan. Maybe they're the ones with the moral authority. Yeah, I said it. Okay. On to the next story. Everybody pay attention, though, because a lot of weird stuff going on with China, and no matter what people tell you, China has been at war with us for a long time. And eventually, the U.S. is going to have to wake up to that fact. Because the stuff that China is doing, the whole COVID thing, the bases that they're buying land around all the military bases, they keep putting things and poisoning us and stuff. They're putting lead on kids' paint on the toys and stuff, and trying to smuggle in bacteria to just. I mean, all our citrus crops in Florida were destroyed by some blight out of China that just magically showed up here. They were trying to smuggle in other wheat blight stuff too. So you got to really pay attention with China. They're trying to get you. Trying to get you. A unanimous Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruling has overturned a lower court's injunction, allowing Texas to enforce a new mail-in voting law requiring voters to verify their identity with ID. Decision praised by Judge Ho as a win for election integrity. You missed Taco Tuesday? I love Taco Tuesday. Judge Ho, who was appointed by President Trump in 2017, has been called a future Clarence Thomas. Well, that's, I hope so. There's Judge Ho. Judge Ho. Ho, ho, ho. It says United States, America, OCA, Greater Houston League of Women Voters versus Ken Paxton. This is what Judge Ho says. Mail-in ballots are not secure. Crediting all this stuff. Mail-in ballot fraud is a significant threat. Ho concurring. Courts have repeatedly found that mail-in ballots are particularly susceptible to fraud, also citing the Brennan Center for Justice amicus brief documenting extensive problems with absentee ballot fraud. Absentee ballots remain the largest source of potential voter fraud, and urging states to do more to prevent voter registration and absentee ballot fraud. The Election Protection and Integrity Act of 2021 combats mail-in ballot fraud in Texas by generally requiring voters who wish to vote by mail to provide an identification number such as a driver's license, social security, or other personal identification number first on their mail-in ballot application and second on the mail-in ballots themselves. With no difficulty concluding that this ID number requirement fully complies with a provision of federal law known by the parties as the material provision of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Under that provision, no person acting under color of the law can deny any individual the right to vote in any election because of an error or omission on any record or paper relating to any application. The ID number requirement is obviously designed to confirm that each mail-in ballot voter is precisely who he claims and that is plainly material to determining whether such individual is qualified. Yeah, so that's what the left was trying to claim, that asking for IDs was a violation of the law because it's you're keeping people from voting. 60,000 fake state IDs means 60,000 Chinese illegals in that state alone. We have 49 more to get away with issuing fake IDs. Yeah, well, no, China is very notorious for making fake IDs. Like, China can make, like, basically, you can go online. I'm not going to tell you where you can go, but there's places online you can go, and it's college kids do it all the time. Underage kids do it all the time to create fake IDs, and they ship them from China. And basically, it looks like, a cop can't tell it's a fake ID by looking at it, and you tell them what, that's all I'll say about that. We could be passing a SAVE Act on Trump nominees, but Congress couldn't be bothered. Voter ID should be standard nationwide. Right. Appeals court just ruled that Texas can require voter ID for mail-in ballots. This is a must for every state. Right. Who are these people? U.S. Appeals Court has just overruled an activist judge blocking the Texas law requiring voter ID for mail-in votes to prevent voter fraud. Huge victory. A.G. Paxton was defending the law. Yeah, Tor, deep web spooky stuff, yeah. Yeah, there's places. Yep. Yep, it's a state has legitimate concern preventing the scourge of mail-in ballot fraud. Our precedents compel us to side with Texas. We have made clear states have legitimate interest in combating voter fraud. That's right. They have a legitimate interest in preventing voter fraud. This is a must for every state. That's right. They won. Thank you, Judge Ho. Appeals Court upholds Texas law requiring ID numbers to cast mail-in ballots. Serious question. Why not vote on federal 1040? Or a 4473. Identify yourself, and if you lie, it's another charge. That's because I say so. Well, I don't know. Unanimous ruling from the 3-judge panel is a setback for civil rights groups. Is it really a setback, or is it just guaranteeing that only legal people get to vote? And since you got all these Democrats running around saying that all persons should have the right to vote, not just citizens, all persons, they're here. Think about what they're saying all over the place in LA, what Karen Bass is saying, what Senator Padilla is saying. what some of these other Congress people who are telling you that that they put the other country first, that they're first they're Guatemalan, or first they're Mexican, or first they're Somalian before they're American, and these are people in Congress. I mean, some things have to change. A federal appeals court has ruled that Texas may enforce a state law that invalidates mail-in ballots submitted without a voter's state identification number or partial social security number. A 3-judge panel of the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled unanimously that the requirement the Texas legislature enacted as part of the election integrity bill known as SB 1 did not violate a federal law preventing states from imposing voting requirements not material to the validity of ballots. Yeah, proof that you're a citizen or proof that you're who you say you are is proof that the ballot is valid. In a brusque 9-page opinion, Judge James Ho twice said the appeals panel had little difficulty concluding Texas law was valid. It phonetically sounds like ers. Democrats are insane. The number matching requirement is obviously designed to confirm that every mail-in voter is who he claims he is, Ho wrote for the panel, and that is plainly material to determining whether an individual is qualified to vote. The judges said that merely requiring applicants to list the voter's name and address was insufficient to address security concerns. That information is easily available to anyone who simply requests it, wrote Ho, a Trump appointee. As a result, any person can request and receive that information about a registered voter, use that information to apply for a mail-in ballot, and then cast a ballot with minimal risk of detection. The ruling is the latest from conservative Fifth Circuit to allow tightening voter eligibility and balloting requirements. Another panel of that court recently ruled that mail-in ballots must arrive by election date to be counted. Yes. I mean, I'm sorry. It was never the fact that ballots could come 2 weeks after, 3 weeks, a month after election day. We have election day, not election month, not election year, not election 6 months, whatever. Yes. Yes, the right to rule also requires a certain level of insanity. Yes. Oh, look, that's a man and a woman. Sarah McBride won't be baited by GOP provocateurs. The decision also lands amid an intensifying showdown over an effort by Texas GOP leaders to withdraw the state's congressional boundaries to produce 5 more Republican-held seats. Well, they just want to redraw the. They're going to want to redraw the borders to make them more, representative of the state. Right now they got this crazy, weird thing drawn. They want to make them more compact. And Democrat lawmakers' decision to flee the state to derail the effort has gripped Washington amid a broader struggle for an advantage in the 2026 midterms. Mm-hmm. Ho was joined in his ruling by Judge Don Willett, another Trump appointee, and Judge Patrick Higginbotham, a Reagan appointee. Civil rights groups and the Biden administration sued to block enforcement of the aspects of the election integrity measure, arguing that the bill had a potential to disqualify a large number of ballots that were cast by legitimate voters but might contain minor errors. U.S. District Judge Javier Rodriguez Jr., San Antonio-based George W. Bush appointee, ruled in 2023 that the presence of an accurate ID number was not material to whether a voter was entitled to vote. Well, he's wrong. And that's not what the law says. The law was whether the ballot was materially a good ballot. And then here's the Hill saying, Trump touts ruling upholding ID number check for Texas mail-in ballots.
Good. I was there. She was an amazing prosecutor and judge. And because she was so good, they drafted her into show business. And she did fantastic. The 5 was the #1 show, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh. Well, I thought this might actually be them talking about the story. President Trump early Tuesday touted an appeals court ruling upholding Texas's requirement that voters provide a driver's license or other identification number for their mail-in ballot to be counted. This is great news, should be nationwide. President Trump wrote on Truth Social. A 3-judge panel on the U.S. Court of Appeals from Circuit unanimously ruled on Monday that the requirement does not violate a provision of the Civil Rights Act 1964, which prevents states from denying a person's right to vote over paperwork errors that are not material. Yeah, it would be material to prove who you are. The number matching requirement are obviously designed to conform that every mail-in voter is indeed who he claims he is, and that it's plainly material to determine whether an individual is qualified to vote, wrote U.S. Circuit Court Judge James Ho, rejecting the argument. Ho was joined on the panel by Don Willett and Trump appointee and Patrick Higginbottom, appointee Reagan. In Texas, voters can vote by mail if they meet certain criteria like being disabled or 65 or older. Gerrymandering, yeah, that's funny. The state's Republican-controlled legislature passed a new check in 2021 as part of a broader election integrity bill. Requires voters to provide a state identification number or the last 4 digits of their social security number on their mail-in ballot application and ballot envelope. Clerks reject ballots that don't comply. The Biden administration and several civil rights groups filed lawsuits soon after the law's enactment. Why would Democrats sue over people proving who they are, proving they have the right to vote? Oh, that's right, because that's the only way they can win is if they cheat. Because the only states that Kamala Harris won were states where they don't require an ID to vote. That's crazy, isn't it? Texas and the Republican National Committee repealed to the Fifth Circuit because he had blocked Texas from enforcing a requirement, appointee of George W. Bush. Rodriguez ruled that the number matching requirement violates the Civil Rights Act because it's not material to a voter's eligibility. If they're not eligible to vote, if they're not the right person, then they're not eligible to vote. I mean, it's like, that's circular retardation. The Fifth Circuit's decision reverses that finding, ruling that the materiality provision only covers voter eligibility determinations and not mail-in ballots. 2021 Act easily complies with the materiality provision in any event. Do you support the requirements? Strongly support. I strongly. Yes, I strongly support it. In a statement, RNC Chairman Michael Whatley called the ruling a clear victory for secure elections. Texas common sense safeguards for mail-in ballots are essential to protecting the integrity of every single ballot cast, Whatley said. As long as Democrats and the left are fighting to overthrow the will of the American people who support these safeguards, RNC will be there to meet them in court. Well, that's pretty cool, right? That's pretty cool. On to another crazy ruling from another crazy judge. We have Obama-appointed U.S. District Judge Lydia Grigsby blocks NIH from terminating funding related to DEI and gender ideology. So she blocked them from defunding the gay grants. Judge Grigsby's ruling exemplifies judicial activism. Protecting ideological capture, not science. NIH's DEI and gender ideology funding distorts research priorities, diverting taxpayer dollars from objective medical inquiry to political agendas. This isn't about inclusivity, it's about enforcing dogma under the guise of progress. Federal agencies weaponize grants to silent dissents, ensuring only politically compliant studies thrive. RFK Jr. rightly challenges corruption. Real science demands transparency, not allegiance to a spectrum myth. Blocking NIH reforms keeps bureaucrats unaccountable while Americans foot the bill for experiments in social engineering. Defund the activism, restore the rigor. The evidence behind these claims demand a closer look. Is there a pattern to these DEI judges? Was her order written by AI? Of course, another DEI-appointed political hack judge. Anyone else noted that an Obama-appointed judge refused to release Epstein's grand jury transcript? The Democrats were silent, not a peep. Yeah. And by the way, too, just so you know, that this judge here that did this, that refused to release the things, her husband worked with the Alex Acosta, was on his team that gave Jeffrey Epstein a sweetheart deal in Southern District, Florida. Yes, her husband is part of the team that gave Epstein the deal, and she blocked the release of the transcripts. Very odd, right? Very, very odd. She should have had to recuse herself, actually, since her husband was part of the prosecution. But she didn't. And just to prove that I went to this Houston's LGBTQ magazine, Outsmart, to get their side of the story. Judge pauses termination of LGBTQ health research grants. Federal ruling pauses Trump policy targeting queer medical research. A federal judge on Friday blocked the Trump administration's cancellation of the U.S. National Institute of Health grants that research on LGBTQ plus related health issues. Ruling from the bench, U.S. District Judge Lydia Grigsby, and appointing a former President Joe Biden, said she would issue I thought she was appointed by Obama. Said she would issue a preliminary injunction against the NIH directives to terminate grants. It's clear that why the funding is being terminated and why the grants are not moving forward is because they relate to community. What? The lawsuit filed in May by the American Association for against NIH, the Department of Health and Human Services, target only certain predominantly LGBTQ plus related research products for funding cuts. Determining why grants get cut, Physicians for Human Rights, Omar Gonzalez-Pagan argued that NIH employees literally do a search term of projects and they literally look for words associated with LGBTQ plus related issues, including transgender, non-binary, and sexuality. Okay. The reason the government is targeting transgender research projects is because they believe transgender people do not exist. We need to take government at its word that this is the President of the United States who has spoken denigratedly of the people that he governs. Michael Wilson argued the court lacked jurisdiction and would become involved in what should be a political process. It's not the first time a district court has thwarted attempts to cancel grant funding's identity-related research. A separate legal challenge, a district court in Massachusetts ruled in June that gutting of NIH grants in diversity-related fields is illegal, though that ruling addressed only a fraction of the hundreds of grants actually terminated. District Judge William Young, an appointee of President Ronald Reagan, said it was palpably clear that racial discrimination and discrimination against America's LGBTQ community was behind the grant termination plans. So if you don't want to pay grants, you're racist. Grigsby said she would issue a ruling on the matter in the coming weeks. Yeah, so you don't issue a ruling right away because then you can't challenge it. And the CNN. I had to open up. Sounds like I am lagging on the queue. Oh, LGBTQ plus. I just want everyone to know that Q is still around. A federal judge blocked the Trump administration's cancellation of NIH health grants that research LGBTQ plus related health issues. Is that better? Ruling from the bench, Lydia Grigsby, an appointee of Joe Biden, said she would issue a preliminary injunction against the directives to terminate the grants for the LGBTQ plus research, describing such directives as designed to focus and target LGBTQ plus members. It's clear that when funding is being terminated, why grants will not move forward is because they relate to that community. The lawsuit was filed in May by Associated Physicians for Human Rights. It says the NIH engaged in unlawful discrimination. Okay, the government is targeting transgender research products. We need to take services. Okay, I think we are separate legal challenge of case. Okay, so we read all this. This is basically the same story. The same article, just printed in a different place. All right. All right. Did I read this already? Wait, did I read this already? Hold on. Judge Grigsby's ruling exemplifies judicial activism protecting ideological capture on science. 14th dogma. Did I read this already? I think I read this already, didn't I? I think I did. I believe I read that already. Okay. Go on to the next story then. I think I read that already. I did. Laughing my A off. President Trump just claimed he got the most amount of votes in Texas history. CNBC host said, we need to fact check you on that. Then he comes back. So you did get the highest number of votes in Texas, so that's true. Moving on. So that's, they just clown themselves. It's so funny. We're gonna turn the volume up too because we want to make sure we get this go up to 500%. Make sure we get it all.
Here we go. So you did get the highest number of votes in Texas, so that's true. But when you were talking
about... then you don't have to say anything more, Joe.
I got to say this.
No, don't say anything more. Don't qualify it by saying, no, I got the highest number of votes.
You did.
In the
history
did.
I'm moving on to your claim that here we go.
Oh, here we go. Funny how they always try to fact check him, and 9 times out of 10 they end up proving him right. Trump was emboldened when they fact check true to him live on air. CNBC's in denial, such crybabies. Trump stated facts and honest embarrassed himself. Post embarrassed himself. Crazy. Just nuts. Just nuts, man. It's just nuts. It's nuts. Yeah, President Trump flipped the deepest blue Texas border towns and counties to red. 41% Hispanic strong, and they voted for Trump close to the border. I mean, this is what Trump took in Texas. So, and they say like they're complaining about they want to redistrict stuff because they don't, but why when these little areas are all that voted that Trump didn't win, would there be so many Democratic congresspeople from Texas? It doesn't make any sense. On to the next story. President Trump praises Sydney Sweeney's ad, and American Eagle's stock skyrockets. Great Jeans ad went viral. The left raged. Trump gave it a thumbs up, and the market went with Trump. Here's the story the enemy media hates. Did anyone see the ad for Beyonce's Levi's jeans ad that they did? Which, I mean, kind of offensive if you ask me, because Beyonce's hair is not naturally that color, and they tried to do the same thing, and it's just kind of weird. That's all. It's kind of weirded me out. It was a little weird, but nobody complained about that one. It started with a cheeky slogan: Sydney Sweeney has great genes. Double meaning, absolutely. Democrats went nuts. Enemy media screamed eugenics. MSNBC and WAPO even suggested it was white supremacy. Wordplay about a hot young girl wearing jeans. Racist. Jeez.
There is a vibe shift going on in America, and the outrage mob can't stand it. It started with American Eagle. Its jeans pun was apparently a hat tip, they say, to white supremacy. But beautiful actresses selling clothes, that's not racist. That's marketing. Now Tesla trying to get in on the action, publishing this cheeky post on X. Our Seats robot also has great jeans. And check out this new Dunkin' Donuts ad. Look familiar?
Look, I didn't ask to be the king of summer. It just kind of happened. This tan? Genetics. I just got my color analysis back. Guess what? Golden summer, literally. I can't help it. Every time I drink a Dunkin' Golden Hour refresher, it's like the sun just finds me. So sipping these refreshers makes me the king of summer. Guilty as charged.
This guy's really
I have to say, I think it's hilarious.
I think it's so funny and
just hilarious.
He's
Katrina.
And well, I think the left now is going to melt faster than the iced coffee Dunkin' Donuts has in July because of this ad. But I think the fact that people are outraged that a strong, confident woman is embracing her femininity and being a woman, and yes, her boobs are out, big deal. God made us that way for a reason. I think the fact that people are outraged just shows that very few people stand in their truth. People are afraid to be who they are. In a society that's trying to change you from man to woman, woman to man, the fact that a woman actually embraces who she is an outrage.
Anything Brian and I say now gets us in trouble.
It does.
So
the ladies have to stay on this.
I left all
Let's turn to the other. Let's turn to the guy. He is kind of a. That guy was annoying, though, wasn't he?
He was great. I thought he was hilarious.
Hilarious. And it just shows you that
I love
the original ad had such an impact. It sparked such controversy. Kevin O'Leary was watching it with us when he was here, and he was talking about how, look at what these people just did. They're brilliant. We keep playing it over and over and over again. They're getting free advertising. Now the Dunkin' Donuts people are getting it. And I forget what the other one was.
Now
Tesla, right, is jumping in on it. I think it's hysterical. And they're also playing on this liberal craziness where you can't be beautiful.
Okay. We're not going to put it away. So, no, Margaret Sanger was not a Republican. Margaret Sanger was a Democrat. The founder of Planned Parenthood. Huge Democrat. Huge progressive Democrat. But then came the real meltdown. Voting records revealed the Euphoria star is a registered Republican in Florida since June. And suddenly everything changed for her and for American Eagle. Wow. A reporter asked President Trump what he thought about the ad. His reply was vintage Trump. She's a registered Republican. Oh, now I love her. Ad. And then that one sentence turned pop culture on its head. And then American Eagle stock surged 23.65%. Biggest one-day gain since August 3rd, 2000. Highest close since February. It wasn't just a meme, it was a market move. Wow, look at that pop. That's a good pop. This would have been a great time for people to do what's called investing. Whenever something happens with a company and when people have outrage and stuff, and it has to do with like overbroad like racial stuff where a company, nothing changes about a company, but a CEO or someone says something and gets accused of racism or something like that, and the company dips. It's they call it investing. You buy in because the fundamentals and everything didn't change. That happened with like Papa John. It happened with a bunch of other companies. Then you buy the stock, and then when it pops back up, you're going to pick up that money. Same thing, with the stuff that happened when Tesla dropped, when the people were mad at Tesla for nothing went wrong. You buy Tesla, boom. And this would have been because people were complaining about it, and then you knew that this was going to pop eventually. So Free the Boob should be a Republican platform campaign. I don't know about Free the Boob, but because we don't want, if we say Free the Boob, that would just mean that we want Democrats running around free because they're boobs. The ad's critics said it promoted whiteness, but American Eagle stood its ground. Great Genes is about genes, her story, her style, her confidence. Translation, we're not bending the knee to the woke bullying. I can't tell. There's something about her, though. She got a nice body, but there's something about her eyes that make me go, like, she looks a little touched. Sydney Sweeney didn't make the political ad. She just modeled jeans like Brooke Shield, but Democrats can't stand a beautiful, successful, blonde, non-trans woman who doesn't yield to their ideology. Now she's winning, and so is American Eagle. Trump's America makes jeans great again. Crash the cancel mob. Boost stocks just by speaking. Turn pop culture into a red pill momentum. The culture war is shifting, and the right is finally playing to win. I hope so. Now to the next story. We've got James Comer. The House Oversight Committee is compelling the following individuals to appear for deposition through issued subpoenas. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton by October 9th, Bill Clinton October 14th, Merrick Garland October 2nd, James Comey October 7th, U.S. Attorney William Barr August 18th, U.S. Attorney Alberto Gonzalez August 26th, Jeff Sessions the 28th, Mueller the 2nd, Loretta Lynch the 9th, Eric Holder the 30th. I wonder if Eric Holder is going to show up because he's still... are you going to hold him in contempt if they fail to show up? Because Eric Holder was held in contempt and nothing ever happened. So I wonder if he's going to try to bag out again, or if he's going to, got him, go get him. Yeah. The House Oversight Committee has just issued subpoenas to former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton requiring testimony in connection with Jeffrey Epstein. Womp, 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 womp. This is all for show. This is a good question. Will this be televised? I bet they will give them a private deposition instead of a public hearing. Probably. They wouldn't be that lucky, would we? Bill does love some TV cameras. All right. So there's that story. Now on to the next story. Trump just went nuclear on the Green New Deal. The EPA is moving to repeal the legal foundation of climate regulation itself. $1 trillion in green tyranny gone. Lee Zeldin calls it the largest deregulatory action in American history. Here's what it means. This guy should have been governor of New York, by the way. In 2009, Obama's EPA declared carbon dioxide a threat to public health, their so-called endangerment findings. If it wasn't for carbon dioxide, there wouldn't be any oxygen, because all plant life eats carbon dioxide, which then breathes out oxygen for us to live. So without carbon dioxide, there would be no plant life, there would be no life, we'd all die. That opened the floodgates for 16 years of climate regulations on cars, energy, industry. The science was vague, but the power grab wasn't. Yeah. Obama's EPA made up the endangerment finding in 2009 and claimed that CO2 was a threat to human health. That one finding became the legal pretext for everything. EV mandates, gas stove bans, tailpipe regulations, stupid airline rules, power plant shutdowns. It was all this guy right here, Obama. In 2007-29, Trump's EPA had moved to repeal it. It was built on fear, not fact. He says the finding was twisted science, legal overreach, $1 trillion tax on working Americans, and it conveniently gave Democrats control over half the economy. Zeldin's move would kill off $1 trillion in regulations. Those regs punish car makers, power plants, heavy industry, working Americans. Under Zeldin, climate mandates are gone. EV coercion ended. Power returned to city, states, and citizens. Huge blow to the globalist ESGs. Look at that. Look at that mouth. You can put a hook in it or something else. Let's be clear. CO2 is not a pollutant. It's plant food. The EPA lumped it in with methane, nitrous oxide, etc., and claimed it contributes to climate change. How much? They never said. But that wasn't enough to start regulating. That was enough to start regulating everything. Their real aim all along. Is CO2 plant food? This is what happens with more CO2. Look at. Here's the thing growing with producers around 85 parts per million, 150, 685, 885. They do these tests, and it's proof. It's all about the money. That's right. There are people who, in the name of climate change, are willing to bankrupt the country. That's not hyperbole. The endangerment finding let unelected deep staters wage war on energy, agriculture, and transportation without ever passing a law. Zeldin's repeal follows his June rollback of Biden's fake clean power plan. No more $1 billion a year mandates on natural gas plants. No forced 90% carbon capture by 2039. No more Obama-Biden energy sabotage. This is real deregulation. Zeldin gets it. It was never about climate. It's just a hustle. It was always about extending federal control over things for which it has no legal basis, a power grab. It also lined the pockets of leftist alternative energy investors. How convenient. Look at Al Gore. He's gotten so rich off of this climate nonsense that he lives in this giant mansion. Bottom line is, climate bureaucrats lied. The regulations crippled America. Zeldin is repealing the foundation of it all. Trump is leading the charge. It's time to end the Green New scam, return science and sanity and sovereignty. That's right, man. Sounds awesome to me. On to the next story. Senator Lisa Murkowski. Senator Lisa Murkowski from Alaska's ratings have plummeted. Just 33% favorability rating, 60% negative, a staggering decline of 28 points since April of this year, per new Alaska survey research poll. Yikes. When you side with Democrats more than your own voters, don't be shocked when Alaska sends you packing. Murkowski didn't just lose favor, she burned the bridge on her way out. Turns out voting against Trump's nominees and embracing D.C. swamp policies creates an avalanche of disapproval even in Alaska. Alaska is rigged with idiotic ranked choice voting crap. It doesn't matter how bad her approval is, Democrats will put her in office because they know she hates America first. Her Liberty score matches her polls. F. This one, Senator Lisa Murkowski's approval rating just collapsed in Alaska. 60% unfavorable, 30% favorable. They're done with her games. And then there's this. Yeah, who knew? Murkowski toys with bid for governor, defends voting to support Trump's tax cuts. There's this story where she's talking about, speaking before Alaska reporters, she toyed the idea of running for governor and defending her recent high-profile decision to vote in support of President Trump's tax breaks. Murkowski, speaking from Anchorage, said, sure, when she was asked if she considered a run for governor. She later said her response was a bit flippant. Would I love to come home? I have to tell you, of course I would love to come home. I'm not making any decisions about anything because my responsibility to Alaska is my job in the Senate right now. That's that. And then there's also this story. Democrat chances of winning back Senate surge after Murkowski bombshell. She says that she wants to. Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski's openness to potentially caucusing with Democrats or as a broader independent could sway power next year, as nearly 36 Senate seats will be up for grabs. Why it matters. Murkowski has been one of the more outspoken Republicans throughout the past decade. No, she's just been one of the biggest traitors. And she's lost 2 primaries and was able to sneak back in through bullshit. More prone than her colleagues to separate herself from President Trump. She's voted against every single nominee of President Trump's. She's voted against every nominee of President Trump's. So has Susan Collins. She has criticized him on Russia collusion, on Russia-Ukraine, on aspects of his immigration policy, on how federal government cuts were handled through Elon Musk's Doge. Current makeup of the Senate, 53 Republicans, 45 Democrats, and 2 independents who are not independents at all. But technically, there should have been 4 more Republicans because the Republicans actually did win in Wisconsin. They did win in Michigan. They did win in Arizona, and they won in Nevada. And those seats were all stolen by keep counting, just keep counting, just keep counting, just keep counting. That's what they did. But that could shift between now and November 20. It still says, but still favors the GOP. But that could shift between now and November, when 33 of the chamber's 100 seats will be contested for 6-year terms. Murkowski is seemingly keeping the door open to potential caucusing with Democrats moving forward, or at least in a more independent mode to avoid the current hardened partisan divide. Galen Druk, the host of the GD Politics podcast, asked a hypothetical question about Murkowski being open to caucusing outside of the GOP if Democrats were to pick up 3 Senate seats in next year's election, and she had 4 opportunities to help her Alaskan constituents. Well, there may be a possibility, she said later, and there is some openness to exploring something different than the status quo. However, even with their criticism of her own party and a general hardline partisanship in Washington, Murkowski doesn't feel like the present state of the Democratic Party is any better. My problem with their hypothetical is that, as challenged as I think we are on the Republican side, I don't see Democrats being much better, and they've got their own share of problems. Quite honestly, they got the same some policies that I inherently disagree with. Murkowski's remarks have caught the eye of some odds makers who are already looking to the 2026 midterms. Bet Online said the senator's remark prompted a major odd shift in the markets, dropping odds showing Republicans being favored to reclaim the Senate at negative 700. 87.5% probability. However, after following our comments, those odds decreased dramatically to negative 250 or 71.4% probability. Even with midterm elections often benefiting the political party and minority, the odds makers told Newsweek it's a big ask to expect Democrats to overwhelm their conservative opponents and win back the Senate. Were Democrats to hold their marginal seats, they would stand a good chance of winning Maine and North Carolina and a plausible outside chance of a 3rd state, most likely Iowa. But even in those rosy scenarios, a 50-50 tie would leave Republicans in control. You're not going to win North Carolina, and you're not going to win Iowa. You might be able to win Maine, but who knows? However, if Murkowski were to flip sides and caucus with the Dems, the math changes to 42-48. And the Senate control becomes a realistic target more than a long shot. Murkowski told Semper on Monday, do I feel that within my Republican conference, I always feel like I'm right there in my political home? No, there's sometimes directions and policies I disagree with. But having said that, it's not accurate that I let label define me, but what's causing some frustration with people. What happens next? Along with the 33 of 100 Senate seats being contested, there will also be 2 special elections, one in Ohio to fill the remaining 2 years of J.D. Vance's term and one in Florida to fill the remaining 2 years of Marco Rubio's term. Well, they're not going to win in Ohio. They're not going to win in Florida. It's just not going to happen. Why do they keep posting the pictures of Trump with Epstein, the same pictures over and over again, the same pictures over and over again? Why do they keep doing that? There's way more pictures of Epstein with Bill Clinton. All right. Now we're going to jump into some gerrymandering talk. The claims of shock by Democrats brought over gerrymandering are on the border on the comical. Yet the winner of the Claude Rains Award must be Mark Elias, who has expressed disgust despite his role in outrageous gerrymandering efforts in the past. Hey, what's good, Elemental? How's it going? Democrats pledge a gerrymander war. Democrats are struggling to convince the public that they are outraged that there is gerrymandering afoot in Texas. It's no easy task, particularly after Texas Democrats selected Illinois as their sanctuary state, a state considered the most gerrymandered in the country. Trump received 45% of the vote in the state, but Republicans have only 14% of the congressional seats. Even the New York Times admitted that gerrymandering has favored Democrats across the nation. However, the winner of the Claude Rains Award must be Mark Elias, who has expressed disgust over the notion of gerrymandering, despite the fact that his group was denounced by courts for outrageous gerrymandering efforts. The origin of the term was based on redistricting associated with Eldridge Gerry, a founding father, vice president, and governor of Massachusetts. He signed off on a district designed to guarantee a seat for the precursor of today's Democratic Party. The district resembled a salamander, so the Boston Gazette deemed it the gerrymander. That effort pales in comparison to what has been done in Illinois to deny Republicans a fair share of congressional seats. This is the Illinois map. I mean, look at it. It's insane. The 13th Congressional District stretches from East St. Louis to Springfield, 90 miles away, then takes a sharp turn to grab Decatur and Champaign. This monstrosity was approved by Democrats who are now insisting that they will respond to Texas with gerrymander war, as if they were political pacifists until a few days ago. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker, portrayed his party as the victim of conniving polls and pledged to respond in kind. Yet it was Pritzker who approved the redistricting that guaranteed while Republicans represented almost half the voters, they will receive less than 20% of the congressional seats. Same is true in California, where Governor Gavin Newsom is also pledging to retaliate despite previously engaging in rampant gerrymandering. Republicans constituted roughly 40% of the congressional vote in 2024, but received only 17% of the House seats. Across the country, in 17 blue states, the Dems won 56.7% of the popular House vote, but secured 143 of the 185 House seats, 77.7%. New York has achieved the same expanded Democrat representation despite the fact that Trump received 45% of the vote. Republicans are confined to a small handful of districts. I have long opposed gerrymandering by both parties. However, the claims of disgust and outrage by Democrats border on the comical. That brings us to Mark Elias, who is again trying to raise clients and donations off of the outrage. Elias has not only been sanctioned in past litigations, but past courts have also criticized his group. In Maryland, Elias filed in support of an abusive gerrymander of the election district that a court found violated not only Maryland law, but the state's constitutional equal protection, free speech, and free elections clause. The court found that the map pushed by Elias subverts the will of those governed. Elias is currently looking at a likely demand for testimony in a new grand jury investigation into Russian conspiracy. He featured prominently in the filings of Special Counsel John Durham. It was Elias who made the key funding available to Fusion GPS, which in turn enlisted Steele to produce the now discredited dossier on Trump and his campaign. During the campaign, reporters did ask about the possible connection to the campaign, but Clinton campaign officials denied any involvement. Weeks after the election, journalists discovered that the Clinton campaign hid payments for his Steele dossier as legal fees among the $5.6 million paid to Perkins Coie. New York Times reporter Ken Vogel said at the time that Elias denied involvement in the anti-Trump dossier. When Vogel tried to report the story, he said Elias pushed back vigorously, saying, "You or your source are wrong." Times reporter Maggie Hamer declared folks involved in funding just lied about it and with sanctimony for a year. It was not just reporters who asked the Clinton campaign about its role in the Steele dossier. John Podesta, Clinton's campaign chairman, was questioned by Congress and categorically denied any contractual agreement between Fusion GPS and them. Sitting beside him was Elias, who reportedly said nothing to correct the misleading information given to Congress. With the likes of Mark Elias leading the clause against gerrymandering, the Democrats have reached a level of hypocrisy that knows no equal. For the public, this growing war should support a movement to put an end to gerrymandering by all parties. I think the easiest way to end it is actually to increase the number of House seats to, it should be there should probably be 2,000 congressmen or more. Right now it's like 700,000 people per congressman. It should be like 100,000 people per congressman. Really should. And even then, that's quite a bit of people for one congressman to have to serve. They should make a lot less money too. It should be part-time work. Here's a Representative Jasmine Slavy Crockett saying, "I don't care how many black MAGA are out there with their hats. Trump has a problem with people of color. Her district in Texas can't be drawn out soon enough. She is a race baiting POS, according to this person. Let's see.
And so I want people to see him and understand who he is. This is a person that has a problem with people of color, period. I don't care how many black MAGA out there with their hats. I want to be clear when we look at who it is that he's kicking out of this country as people of color. When we look at who he always disrespects and says that they are low IQ, even though when you look at his cabinet, this has to be the most incompetent cabinet we have ever had in the history of this country. When we're talking about people that literally have the ability to drop bombs or order that bombs be dropped or make recommendations that bombs be dropped, and they literally don't know how to get the signal chat right. So we're talking about low IQ individuals, but so long as
Yes, definitely. They should be paid with the minimum wages for the state and a per diem only. Yes. They should be forced to keep their, it was never supposed to be a career. It was supposed to be part-time. It was supposed to be citizen politicians, citizen servants. And they were supposed to go there and do this stuff. Oh, okay, Joe. Thank you. Thank you for stopping by. It's always great to see you. And then, they should keep their day jobs. And then, yeah. And there should be a lot more of them. And that would be a lot easier. You wouldn't have to worry about gerrymandering if there wasn't these crazy districts. You wouldn't really be able to gerrymander them because it wouldn't work. And it would also cut down the risk of paying them off and all these stuff, because with that many people, it would be harder to bribe, and get them all to do stuff. And it would probably, honestly, open up to third parties, to other political parties, because the small, when you have so many people, like one congressman going for 700,000 people, and they only, and really only half the people vote anyway, so then that's 350,000 people, and then they only need to get half of those people to vote for them to win. But so you lower the numbers down and you make it so that they, the closer they are to the people, I think the better the representation would be of the people. It would be easier to get rid of them too.
they say that this guy is their guy, and usually if they work for a certain news network, that's the only qualification that's necessary. I've got news for the president. I am not going anywhere. No matter how many squiggly lines they draw in the state of Texas, I will be back, and I will be on his behind and making sure the real accountability that the American people are demanding, whether they're Democrats, Republicans, or independents, that it is had when the Democrats take control of this House in.
Yeah, well, I hate to break it to her, but if they redraw those maps, she's not going to be in Congress anymore. Democrats were the party of slavery, the Confederacy, KKK, and Jim Crow. The entire history of racism in the United States can be traced to the Democrat Party. It's so ridiculous. It is. The big brother in Texas was triggered by a letter sent by AG Dillon regarding illegal districts. Texas is just one example. Details. Yeah, I wanted to read this because I saw this. I was like, ooh, this is the big brouhaha.
But the big brouhaha in Texas at the State House, where the Democrats have basically absconded and won't do their job, actually is triggered by a letter you sent Texas telling them that some of their districts were illegal. Tell us about that.
Well, yeah, so I mentioned that the courts are beginning to percolate these decisions that are striking down portions of the precedents that have, some would say required, but certainly enabled race-based districting. And so one of the flavors of race-based districting that states have tried to do over the years, and tried to do because they've been forced to do by plaintiffs, minority groups, plaintiffs, is that you can combine multiple minority groups or count on a certain white crossover group to a minority group to make what's called a coalition minority district under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And in the Fifth Circuit, which Texas is a part of, there was a recent decision in 2023 that struck down this concept of coalition districts, but left alive what is now going to be considered by the Supreme Court a sort of majority minority district. But you have to have a single minority that composes a majority of that district. I know that's a lot, but this is a very convoluted area of the law. So we took a look at Texas, and we found that 4 of their districts in Texas are comprised of these so-called coalition districts. In other words, to get to a special minority district, you have to add together multiple minorities or count on a certain percentage of a crossover white vote. And this is too complex, too weird, and too inconsistent with equal protection. And so we wrote to Texas telling them that even though that law had been struck down a couple of years ago, their districts are now not in compliance with the federal voting rights laws, and so they needed to take action to fix them. That is what triggered the Texas legislature and the Texas governor to call the legislature into session to put new maps together, and that is what caused all these Democrats to spitefully flee the jurisdiction to avoid there being a quorum. And so I think this is very interesting. You can see that from the extreme reaction of certain people that they are very concerned. And you've seen members of Congress come out, and you've seen Governor Gavin Newsom from my former state of California come out and troll governors of other states over this, that this is an existential threat to the seats that have been gerrymandered for minority congressional candidates who get in there and then keep them for years. And some of these districts stretch 200 miles, and they go around multiple counties, and they cross bodies of water, and they violate concepts in the voting rights laws that have to do with compactness of districts, contiguity of districts, and respect for political subdivisions. For example, the types of lines that are drawn for state legislative districts. These congressional monster districts that look like snakes, and they're really quite ridiculous. And so the Supreme Court is actually going to be taking up this issue in one step further than the analysis I did for that letter. And so really a lot is at stake here in this voting rights area.
It's huge.
I was at the White House about an hour ago, and President Trump was asked about this very issue. And the question was posed to him, is it worth it for Republicans to win out on this argument in Texas and Republicans get 5 more electoral votes and seats in Congress? Or, you have these other states, like you said, California, Massachusetts, Illinois, champing at the bit to gerrymander even more. So how do you reconcile that?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I don't know how it's going to shake out, and that's actually not my job in the Civil Rights Division. My job in the Civil Rights Division is nonpartisan. It is to understand and enforce the federal voting rights laws. And so Justice Thomas's dissent from the recent punting of a particular case that is now the center of attention here, Louisiana versus Calais, really very sharply calls into focus the fact that the court's interpretation of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which enables and some would say requires racial gerrymandering all over the United States, not just in Texas, in every state, just about, except for those states that only have one district, is directly at odds with the Equal Protection Clause of the United States Constitution. So it's interesting that in trying to remedy the vestiges, the recent vestiges of slavery in our country, which brought us the Equal Protection Clause, we've had these later laws that are relying on extremely outdated concepts of now completely banned for decades tests like poll taxes and literacy tests to become registered to vote. These don't exist anymore in America, and yet we're still drawing districts to remedy discrimination that hasn't existed for decades. And so California may blithely be trolling other states over their lines, but the fact is that California is rife with majority minority districts that have been drawn. They're pet little districts for some of the longest running members of Congress. And all of these things are threatened. By the way, whenever you get rid of these types of districts, you're also, of course, affecting the districts around them. And I was talking to a friend about this when Louisiana first passed this type of a district. They were accused of an unholy alliance between Republicans who wanted, safe districts for themselves, and the sort of civil rights lawyers who wanted safe minority districts. Some would say both have safe districts in that situation, but it's 2025 in America today, and people can get elected on their merit. Nobody is banning people or hindering people because of their race from reaching the polls or from competing for office. And so I think that's really the current concept is, and I think the Supreme Court's going to decide that this term, hopefully, whether Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act any longer permits or certainly requires racial gerrymandering. And so Texas is just one example.
Racial gerrymandering, I think, is going to get struck
problems
down
with their districts. And so we're going to see a lot of this shake out over the coming months.
Yeah. We're going to see what happens with that. We really are. Yep. The brouhaha in Texas was triggered by that letter. Yep. So stay informed. So speaking of that, we have this right here. The Texas House Democrats fled the state to save racial gerrymandered districts like the 35th. It stretches more than 100 miles from North Austin to South San Antonio. These districts don't reflect their communities and cost Republicans 5 seats in Congress. Yeah. Democrats fight to save gerrymandered districts. So here's the districts. I mean, look at them. These are the districts they're fighting to save.
Texas Democrats are fighting to save gerrymandered districts. Texas Democrats are fighting to save gerrymandered districts.
I mean, it's crazy. Look at that thing. It's like, look at it. It looks, that's nuts. That's nuts. Democrats fighting gerrymandering everywhere except where it works for them. It's only gerrymandering when they do it. In the 35th district. Look at that thing. It goes crazy through Texas. That's a crazy thing, isn't it? Look at that thing like a snake. Yeah, and they fled to Illinois, which is another highly gerrymandered district. District 13 stretches through the middle of the state, encompasses blue cities while conveniently excluding red cities. You see it? See Illinois? I mean, if you look at Illinois' map and you really look at it and you blow it up and you take a look at some of these districts, the way they wrap around in circles and do these things, they cut things out, and then especially they take stuff from the city of Chicago and they pull the city of Chicago and they stretch it out. They stretch it out. They stretch it out. They stretch it out. They stretch these areas out of the city, out of the city, out of the city to get all these districts. If they kept the city in the city, in Cook County, basically, and instead of wrapping it out to other counties, it would be completely different. You're not cheating if you're not trying. Typical bully mentality. They can dish it out, but they can't take it. Look at this. This guy says, this is how the Democrats drew my congressional district in Maryland a few years ago so they could maximize their representation in Congress. Spare me the fake outrage. They just pissed about Texas. Republicans haven't finally started playing by the Democrats' game. I mean, look at this district. I mean, how is that legal? How is that legal? How is this legal? It makes no sense that this is legal. And Ken Pax is breaking. I will seek judicial orders declaring that runaway Democrats who failed to appear for the Speaker's deadline have vacated their office. The people of Texas elected lawmakers, not jet-setting runaways looking for headlines. If you don't show up to work, you get fired. Like Snowflake says, it's not designed to serve the people. Thank you very much. Oh, we've been going 2.5 hours. I just want to remind, there's still 211 people watching on YouTube. Please hit the like button if you haven't already. Hit the subscribe button if you're new and haven't subscribed yet. I try to put this content out like this, 5 to 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. But at a minimum, 5 days a week, I put this content out every night. I like to participate, talk to people, and answer chats and questions and stuff. So, it says Attorney General Paxton announced a continued refusal to perform legislative duties by the Texas House of Democrats who broke quorum constitutes an abandonment of office, and he will pursue a court ruling ensuring their seats are declared vacant. Yes. Here it goes. Governor Greg Abbott is asking the state Supreme Court to remove Democratic Rep. Gene Wu. He goes, woo! Get him out of here. Woo! Whose house? Woo's house! For leading a quorum break to prevent a vote on Texas's new redistricting map. It's an emergency petition for a writ of quo warranto. Mm-hmm. And the Dems are panicking. Why? Because Texas just nuked their racially gerrymandered districts. The Democrats have nowhere left to gerrymander. They already rigged their maps years ago. Now the GOP is fighting back. Let's talk about the states they want you to ignore. Hello, Houston, redistricting Texas. Blue states with 0 Republican House seats: Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Vermont, New Hampshire, Hawaii, New Mexico, Connecticut, and Delaware. Blue states with just 1 House seat: Maryland, Oregon, Maine. This is what our democracy looks like to them. Mm-hmm. Now look at these moderate blue states. Colorado, Minnesota, Illinois, Virginia, New Jersey. Each has 2 to 5 GOP House members, even when the Republicans win 40 to 50% of the vote. 40 to 45% of the vote. How? Gerrymandering. The kind that the media says doesn't exist because it helps Democrats. Illinois' new map got an F grade for the Princeton gerrymandering project for giving Democrats a significant advantage. Campaign Legal Center estimates this map is more skewed than 81% of the past maps. The number of House seats considered competitive dropped by 50%. That leaves only California and New York, but they're already terrible. California GOP won over 40% of the vote and got just 70% of the House seats. New York, Trump got 45%, GOP confined to a few districts. Now Dems are threatening even more to punish Texas, but how are these 2 states think they're going to do it? Take another look at Illinois. Illinois Democrats drew a district from East St. Louis up to Springfield, then east of Decatur, then a sharp turn to grab Champaign. 90 miles of squiggly nonsense just to rig 1 seat. This is what the Dems call defending our democracy. I mean, that is crazy. And who's leading this charade? Mark Elias, Democrat top election lawyer and key Russiagate conspirator. He's outraged by Texas, but his own maps have been thrown out by courts for extreme gerrymandering. It's the Claude Rains I'm shocked award in real life. Let's be clear, the Texas maps have being changed. They were gerrymandered for Democrats unconstitutionally on the basis of race. So when Texas Republicans correct them, Democrats cry foul, not because it's unfair, but because they're losing. Yeah, we're going to pull that up. Texas Democrats literally fled to Illinois, the most gerrymandered state in America, to protest unfair redistricting. You can't make this up. They don't care about voters. They care about control. And for the first time in years, they're losing a bit of it. The redistricting war has only one rule. Democrats can gerrymander forever. Republicans must never fight back. Well, Texas broke that rule. Democrats are screaming because they literally have nothing left to rig. Just wait until the aliens are gone. The illegal aliens are gone. Ooh, that'll be a problem. The illegal aliens get sent out. They'll lose 20, 30 more seats. Yeah, there's this one. That's the Texas proposed congressional map dismantles district flagged by the DOJ. The Department of Justice said 4 districts unconstitutionally combined black and Hispanic voters, a charge the state disputes. But the proposed map passes, 2 will still be multiracial. I don't think the district should have, they shouldn't be divided by race at all. It should just be a district. I mean, do we really have huge areas in America now that are segregated by race? I don't think so. I think we're all mixed together now pretty well. You know, U.S. Rep. Al Green walks with a congressional redistricting meeting at the University of Houston. Yeah. In early July, President Trump was pushing Texas to withdraw its congressional maps to better favor Republicans. The Department of Justice sent a letter to state leaders a letter. 4 Texas congressional districts were unconstitutional. The Department warned 3, the 9th, 18th, and 33rd were unconstitutional coalition districts where black and Hispanic voters combined to form a majority. The 29th, while majority Hispanic, was also unconstitutional, the letter said, because it was created by its 2 neighbors being coalition districts. It's well established that so-called coalition districts run afoul of the Voting Rights Act and the 14th Amendment, Assistant Attorney General Hamid Dillon wrote, threatening legal action if Texas didn't bring the districts into compliance. On Wednesday, Texas House Republicans reached their first draft of a redrawn map designed to give the GOP 5 new seats in the next year's midterms. Well, I think it's not designed to give them the seats. It's just designed to get rid of those problems. And as for 4 of the districts that troubled Dillon in the Houston area, the 9th and the 18th, where no one race currently constitutes a majority of eligible voters, will be withdrawn as just over half Hispanic and half black, respectively. But as a result, the nearby 29th district, a fixture of East Houston's Latino community, would lose its Hispanic majority, becoming 43% Hispanic, 33% black, and 18% white. 33rd district in North Texas, also entirely redrawn, would still have no single racial or ethnic group that constitutes a majority. Yeah, I don't think they're supposed to draw maps to make races constitute a majority. I don't think that's supposed to be a thing. That would be racism. Texas has long maintained that it drew its maps with an eye toward race. But tinkering with the lines now with these racial concerns have been raised, risks triggering a Voting Rights Act complaint, legal experts said. States generally cannot redraw districts based on race without a compelling argument that it's necessary to protect voters' ability to elect their candidates of choice. That's racist to say that you black people have to vote for only black people, or Mexicans have to vote for Mexicans. I mean, my congressman is Byron Donalds. He's a black man. And guess what? My district is not majority black at all. But we voted for him. So does that mean, I don't get it. It sure seems like they've actually done what the DOJ without any basis accused them of. Well, the DOJ has the basis. They accused them of it, noting that they have not done sufficient analysis to say for sure. Oh, so the guy that didn't do enough analysis to say what they did or what the DOJ did makes the statement and goes, but I haven't done the analysis, so I'm just talking out my ass. Legal experts say the DOJ's interpretation of the law around coalition districts and thus its legal threat to Texas are based on faulty logic that could be backing the state into a discrimination lawsuit. No, I think it's the actual precedent in the Fifth Circuit. Nothing in this decision suggests, much as holds, that the VRA prohibits the very existence of coalition district. Redistricting expert at the University of Michigan Law School told the House Redistricting Committee at the first hearing last week. There are hundreds of these districts nationwide in which jurisdictions rely on traditional principles to create these districts. Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act states cannot engage in election or voting practice to dilute the electoral power of voters of color, including by packing them into a single district or diffusing them throughout multiple. For decades, court held that states can satisfy the requirements by creating districts where multiple politically cohesive racial voting groups constitute a majority. Currently, Texas has 9 districts with no one racial or ethnic group as a majority. And 8 of them, Black, Hispanic, and Asian voters combined, create a majority. In 2024, the 5th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, which hears Texas-based cases, reversed a prior ruling and said coalitions of different racial or ethnic groups within one district cannot claim their right have been violated under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. Citing this ruling, Dillon told Texas that its coalition districts were nothing more than vestiges of unconstitutionally racially biased gerrymandered past, which must be abandoned. But this reflects a misunderstanding of the case. Under this ruling, the VRA can't require states to create voter coalitions, but that doesn't mean coalition districts are inherently unconstitutional. All it says is you don't have the affirmative obligation to purposely create a coalition district. A lawyer with the campaign legal center who was representing, it certainly doesn't say go through the map and eliminate the ones you drew. Texas leaders have contradicted themselves and each other on the question whether coalition districts should be done about them. Abbott, days after receiving the letter, included redistricting on his agenda for the legislature's special session, citing constitutional concerns raised by the U.S. Department of Justice. He later told Fox 4 that redistricting was necessary because of the Fifth Circuit ruling. We want to make sure that we have maps that don't oppose coalition districts while at the same time ensuring that we maximize the ability of Texas to be able to vote for the candidates of their choice. At a House committee meeting on Friday, Rep. David Spiller of Jackson Borough told Hunter, who carried the 2020 maps into the lower chamber, the law was different then. You had coalition districts being interpreted differently. Today you have the Fifth Circuit case absolutely changing the law. But in court, Texas and Long Island, it did not draw coalition districts to address racial disparities because it draws race-blind maps. Attorney General Paxton doubled down on this argument in response to Dillon. Texas legislature has led the nation rejecting race-based decision-making in its redistricting process and has drawn its current maps in conformity with traditional non-racial redistricting criteria to ensure Texas. Oh, so they just coincidentally drew them that way. It had nothing to do with the race. I request that Democrats, House and Senate redistricting committees have invited Dillon to testify on the letter and her allegations against Texas, but neither she nor any representative from DOJ responded to the request. The Senate panel this week voted not to subpoena her. What happened to the Houston DOJ districts? 3 of the districts Dillon cited in her letter are neighbors in the Houston area. All 3 would be radically redrawn by the House proposed map. The 9th congressional district in a multiracial district map made up of 45% black, 25% Hispanic, and 18% white, 9% Asian. The district covers part of South Houston and outlying suburbs. They voted for Kamala Harris by 44 points and was reliably electing Al Green since 2004. Under the House's proposed map, the 9th district has been drawn entirely around a new part of Houston, retaining just 2% of Green's current district and scooping up conservative swaths of East Harris County. The Hispanic population would climb to over 50%, while the white population would almost double to 34%. Black voters would drop to 12%, and Asian voters to 2%. This new district would have voted for Trump by 15 points. Yeah, but those other people that voted for Harris, they went somewhere else. They didn't just erase them. It's saying the proposed map packs black voters to create a Republican district. Under the House Republicans' newly proposed map, more black voters in Houston would be packed into the 18th district, the solidly blue seat left vacant since the death of Rep. Sylvester Turner in March, to revamp the abutting 9th congressional district. In that seat, represented by Al Green, black residents currently make up 39% of the voting age population, powering Harris's 44-point advantage. Under the new lines, the black share of the 9th district voting age would decline to about 11%, while Trump would have carried the district by just over 15 points. Green, who is essentially drawn out of his district, condemned the proposal as racist. The DOJ demanded that race card be played, and the governor dealt the people of Texas a racist hand. Republicans pointed to the changing preferences of Latino voters who sharply swung for Trump and other GOP candidates to defend these new lines. Each of these newly drawn districts now trend Republican in political performance. It does allow Republican candidates the opportunity to compete in these districts. Some of Green's existing districts have been pushed into the newly drawn 18th district. While this was previously a seat with no single racial majority, its electorate will become 50.8% black, while cutting the Hispanic and white population. Would also tilt even further to the left. Harris carried the district by 40 points in 2024 and would have won it by a 54-point spread under the new lines. Next door, Sylvia Garcia's 29th district would also be reconfigured with Hispanic residents making up 42% of its new eligible voting population, down 20 points from its current makeup. The district's black and white population would increase to create a district without a single racial group dominating. It would become more strongly Democratic. In challenging Texas maps, plaintiffs had contended that Houston's population justifies two majority Hispanic districts. Instead, the one strong majority Hispanic district has been eliminated and replaced with a district that is almost exactly half Hispanic, alongside one that is almost exactly half black. 50.5% is unlikely to perform for Latino preferred candidates or black preferred candidates, Gaber said, but they know that it's a mirage. In the letter, Dillon also said the 33rd Congressional District ran afoul of the Constitution through its coalition status. The district is currently anchored in Fort Worth. The electorate that's 44% Hispanic, 25% black, and 23% white. The district went for Harris by 34 points and consistently reelected Mark Veazey, a black Democrat. A decade ago, Texas and federal courts asserted that 33 was not a coalition district. District 33 is not a minority coalition district in which two minority groups band together to form an electoral majority. The state and the plaintiff said in a joint advisory to the court. District court judge agreed, saying it was not intentionally drawn as a minority district. The revised 33 district maintains about a third of Veazey's old district, moving out of his Fort Worth base. The proposed new lines would reduce Hispanic and black population to increase the white population while maintaining about the same Democratic lean. Just like the current map, the proposed 33 district does not have a single racial group that dominates. Legal experts say that it's not inherently a problem, despite the letter claimed. One House meeting last week, Nina Perales, Vice President of Litigation at the Mexican-American Legal Defense and Educational Fund, one of the groups suing over Texas current maps, testified that the Dallas-Fort Worth area, like Houston, should have an additional Hispanic majority district on top of D.C.'s Hispanic plurality seat. In light of the growth of the population over the past decade, the Voting Rights Act does require the creation of additional districts. A few districts in Dallas-Fort Worth area went without major changes in the new map, reshaping the downtown Dallas district of Rep. James McCockett. 50.2% of the voting population would be black, not unlike two Houston districts just 2 inches just past the majority threshold. If black or Hispanic voters were electing their candidate of choice, there's no reason to move more voters of one group into the district to hit a perfunctory 50% mark, Levitt said. What? It tells me you're trying hard to hit a particular target, such as the target itself, with prominent reason of moving people in or out of the district. Well. There's a muse saying that the Governor Abbott should not call for special elections to replace the House Democrats who abandoned their seats. Instead, he should call their bluffs and wait them out. Mm-hmm. And we got this story about Trump's firing immigration judges. Chicago's immigration judges in Chicago getting whacked. The first judge got her termination email while she was sitting on the bench. The chief judge said since Trump took office, judges are being shown the door. We're living in the best of times, folks.
We hired without warning. Two now former female federal immigration judges say their terminations are part of what they see as an obvious pattern.
We have seen that women and minorities have been disproportionately affected. This clearly raises serious concerns about transparency, fairness, and due process in our courts. I call for full transparency regarding our terminations.
Judge Carla Espinosa's termination email came as she sat on the bench in Chicago's immigration court July 11th. In the span of a few days, two more female colleagues got the same email from the Executive Office of Immigration Review, the division of the Department of Justice that oversees immigration courts.
I worry the EOIR has lost its mission.
The I-Team broke the story of Assistant Chief Judge Jennifer Payton's firing last month.
I'm really mostly worried about our country.
After years leading Chicago's immigration court, Judge Payton says the overburdened system she helped oversee is buckling.
Since January 2025, I've watched my professional colleagues and friends, over 100 of them, be either fired, resign, or transferred to other government jobs. Even more judges have simply quit. That
you guys
leaves
suck.
perhaps
You haven't been
600
doing your job.
immigration judges now, down from
You're supposed to be going
a little over 700.
Judge Payton's ouster came weeks after a meeting with Illinois Senator Dick Durbin at
good for Dick Durbin. Yeah. Well, Dick Durbin got you fired because you work for the executive branch, not Dick Durbin. I hate to break it to you as an immigration judge. So suck on those. The Midas touched everything. They are behind because they are liberal judges and work very slow. Democrats milk everything they work on, 100% fact. They approve every illegal and those who had criminal records. Yep. That's what they did. And here goes. Two more fired. Two more federal judges speak out after being abruptly fired. Well, you weren't doing a good job. That's why you got fired. Shit happens, you know. Two federal judges recently fired by the Trump administration speaking out and calling for answers to why they were abruptly let go because you sucked at your job and they weren't happy. Both judges say they were notified by email that they were fired effective immediately and given no explanation why. They don't have to give you an explanation. You're fired. You work for the executive branch. Well, they both have theories about what they believe they were let go by the Attorney General. I served over 9 years in the Department of Justice. I care about my job. I was good at it. No, you weren't. I was fired by email. No cause, no notice, no reason. You don't need cause. You're just fired. It came less than 2 weeks after Illinois Durbin visited the immigration court. Payton took the time to show him the court and explain its function. Shortly after, she received the email. When you're not given a reason, you wake up at 3 a.m. wondering why. It's not a permanent job. That's why. It's not a guaranteed job working for the government. I certainly have concerns about me being female, having a Hispanic last name, whether that had something to do with my termination. She was fired on July 15th, and she specifically asked her bosses why she was fired. I asked whether my gender or sex and heritage had anything to do with it, and I'm waiting for a response. She that fucking retarded? That she asked that question? That's why you were fired, because you were that retarded that you would ask that question. Why are certain judges being chosen and not others? Durbin said. It raises questions about whether this court system is going to be guided by due process or politics. It's going to be guided by immigration judges that follow the law and don't award asylum to people who don't qualify for it. So if they found judges who kept getting overturned because they weren't doing the correct job, then that's why. There are roughly 600 judges doing the work of 700. Well, they're going to hire a bunch more. They got the money. That's the big, beautiful bill. They're going to hire a bunch more judges. A judge shouldn't feel pressured or shouldn't have to give respondents time to respond to a motion made by the government. They're going to cry baby about it. That's what it is. Eyewitness 7 does the same thing. You know, more judges terminated, massive, as the administration works to cut down on a massive backlog. Here. Oh, this is a story I wanted everyone to see. So this is I don't know if you guys remember that girl that got beat up. She was all bruised up, marked up and stuff. It says, big news. Moved by Holly's story, actor Charlie Sheen has personally and generously donated to her recovery. To Charlie Sheen and to the thousands who stood with Holly, we thank you. You're a lifesaver. Anonymous giver, $1,000 USD. Hi, Holly. Both my parents are from Ohio. I'm a lifelong Reds fan, and I also played for the Indians in a film years ago. My Ohio connections run deep, and what happened to you will not be tolerated by the true Ohioans like yourself, as justice will reign supreme. Heal well, young lady, and know that we are all rooting for you. Charlie Sheen. Charlie says, Benny and I were merely following I was merely following your gracious lead. This is Charlie Sheen actually did this. The speed at which you and Bernie Moreno hatched the donation plan, I was stunned by your compassionate and patriotic as it gets. You both reminded us all of what America we remain proud to call home. Keep up the great work. And to Holly, we have your 6. XOXO, Charlie Sheen. Charlie Sheen is proud of you and your sobriety. America also misses your comedic genius. It's time to create something new. Make America laugh again, brother. So yeah, Charlie Sheen, not a scumbag. Although he might be kind of weird, but he's not a scumbag. Go figure. Oh, and here's this other story. Representative Delia Ramirez, who said she's more proud to be Guatemalan than American. I think she said her Guatemalan comes first, before her Guatemalan becomes before being American. During a junket to Mexico, took 5 sponsored junkets last year to Guatemala, twice Panama, Colombia, and Honduras. Sources Open Society sponsored the trips. See this stuff? This is right here. Days at own expense. 0. She didn't pay for any of this stuff. This was paid for by other people. You know, Chicago Religious Leadership Network, Klerna, yeah, SEPRA, Partnership, PPIP, all these things. Yeah, all these things being paid for by other groups. Do folks realize that Talab and Omar were with her in Mexico City for the event this past weekend? Yeah, look at that. Yeah. So here's talking to this Mahmoud for warmth and leadership, committed to working together to realize our collective liberation and honor our shared humanity at home and abroad. Collective liberation. What is she talking about? Delia Ramirez talking about liberation with the Hamas guy. The Center for Democracy in America receives funding from the foundations, from the George Soros Foundation. Yeah, look at that. So that's who pays her. George Soros. Mm-hmm. You know, Jonathan Turley says the anger about Ramirez is not about how she defines herself, but what it is to be American. It's shared identity, the article of faith that defines us all. These immigrants, this is and should be still be the standard for all immigrants who desire citizenship in our country. Theodore Roosevelt. First place, you insist that the immigrant who comes here in good faith becomes an American and assimilates himself to us. He shall be treated on the exact same with everyone else, for it is an outrage to discriminate against any such man because of creed or birthplace or origin. But this is predicated upon the person becoming in every facet an American, not someone who says that they're Guatemalan first and then goes to Congress. There are going to be no divided allegiance here. Any man who says he's an American but something else also isn't an American at all. We have no room for but one flag, the American flag. We have no room for but one language here, and that is the English language. And we have room for but one sole loyalty, and that's the loyalty to the American people. And that's what Teddy had to say. Rep. Ramirez under fire after declaring, I am a proud Guatemalan before I'm American. Ramirez is locked into a fierce fight with the White House over controversial remarks in the second annual Pan-American Congress held in Mexico. I'm a proud Guatemalan before I'm an American. Actually, she should be in a fight with Congress because those words are grounds for her to be expelled from Congress. At a minimum, the Speaker can remove her from all committee assignments. She does not deny the remarks, but insists that there is no double standard. That there's a double standard for white colleagues who identify as Irish American or Italian American or Ukrainian American to honor their ancestry. If someone said they were Irish before American or Italian before American or Ukrainian before American, I would say that that's would be a problem too. That also was criticized for her criticism of the United States being addicted to war and threatening the world with its imperialism, militarism, conquest, control, and competition in an attempt at domination. You know, this is an anchor baby who said her mother snuck across the border 9 months pregnant to give birth to her. She shouldn't be a U.S. citizen, actually. She should get her. She should not be a citizen. She's not a citizen. She stole citizenship. Her mother stole it. Her mother's a criminal, and she's a criminal. The White House criticized Ramirez as well as the appearance of other high-profile squad members. These Democrat comments are despicable and underscore their commitment to putting America last. The comments of Ramirez have clearly struck a nerve on both sides. For my part, I'm very proud of my Irish Sicilian background. My Sicilian grandparents came here to the country at the turn of the century. They were deeply proud of their heritage, but I've always insisted that their children identify as America's first and foremost. And I discuss in my forthcoming book, Rage of the Republic, and we share a common identity of people who are joined by the core principles of liberty and individual rights. This country is unique because it is composed largely of people who came here to embrace the new identity of shared values. But people like Ramirez didn't come here for any liberty or shared values. They came here to steal from us and get free shit. That's why they came. I was surprised that Ramirez did not simply say that ranking was a poor choice of words. There is a difference between calling oneself a Guatemalan American and saying that you're Guatemalan first and American second. That's what she said. She has also publicly discussed how she's the wife of a DACA recipient and the daughter of a Guatemalan working immigrants, including a mother who crossed the Rio Grande while pregnant. She's not an American citizen. This woman is not. Someone should sue over it. It's a harrowing story of many who came to this country to seek new identity and a better life. My grandparents came to this country in the filthy hold of a wooden ship where immigrants died and two gave birth. What drove them was the promise of a new start in a nation based on freedom and opportunity. Anger over Ramirez is not about how she defines herself, but about what it is to be an American. It is a shared identity and article of faith that defines us all. That does not mean Ramirez does not love this country. I'll say she doesn't love this country. Just what she says. You can criticize the country and still love it. I don't think she loves the country, though. However, she should realize that her ranking insults many Americans who cherish the heritage but embrace her core identity as Americans. Yeah, I don't think she loves this country. I'll say that. I don't think it. Then we got this story that says, breaking, Project Veritas whistleblower, former Attorney General Bill Barr and media figures use burner phones to run illegal immigration visa fraud scheme for elites and billionaires. What? This would shock absolutely no one that has been paying attention. These swamp dwellers are corrupt criminals. Doesn't matter what the letter in front of their name is. Sounds like someone needs to check their phone. Can't wait for Trump to clean this mess up, make America great again. Right. That's right. Let's read a story here. Breaking news. Project Veritas whistleblower, former AG Bill Barr, and media figure used burner phones to run a legal immigration visa fraud scheme for elites and billionaires. Project Veritas on Tuesday released a bombshell story from a whistleblower alleging that former U.S. Attorney Bill Barr, along with media figure Armstrong Williams, is running an illegal immigration fraud scheme for elites and billionaires. Patricia Leslis, whistleblower, former Brazilian journalist at the Howard Stern Holdings who was hiding abroad, told Project Veritas that she was prosecuted after reporting Bill Barr and Armstrong to the FBI. It's way more easy to defraud the immigration system and the government more than people think, and I have proof of that because that's what Armstrong and former Attorney General Bill Barr does. Patricia Ledis alleges wealthy foreigners are obtaining U.S. visas through sham companies, and Bill Barr not only knows about it, he's actively participating in it. Oh, look at the two. Project Veritas reviewed text messages revealing Armstrong Williams directed Patricia Ledis to receive $700,000 into her personal account for creating a business plan for Peter and Vivian Reese E2 visa application. When Ledis raised concerns about the absence of a contract and being falsely presented as a lawyer rather than a journalist, Williams responded with threats. $700,000 is nothing. You are living in the richest country in the world. Stop asking so many questions and do your job. You don't want to lose your green card. Armstrong Williams said in a text. Wow. Armstrong Williams instructs Ledis to receive $700,000 into her bank account. Stop asking so many questions. According to Project Veritas, the companies conducted no actual operations, and Bill Barr used burner phones to hide the scheme. Bill Barr knows the companies that they launched for these visas were not real companies. After they got their visas, I discovered they do not have any plan to own or operate the company, so it's basically just them creating a fake company that I helped create with them. Sounds like fraud. Sounds like defrauding the U.S. government. Project Veritas reported that the listed address for Reese Cosmetics on the E2 visa application confirmed no such business exists or operates there and is not operated there, according to witnesses. According to the text messages reviewed by Project Veritas, Bill Barr and Armstrong always make sure the visas get approved. They don't have to go through a government approval process. They're automatically approved. Veritas has verified through travel records that Peter and Vivian Reese continue to enter and exit the United States, although Reese Cosmetics is listed as inactive. A whistleblower in hiding abroad, fearing for her life, has delivered explosive evidence to Project Veritas exposing an alleged visa fraud scheme involving former U.S. Attorney William Barr, media figures Armstrong Williams, and other prominent D.C. insiders. A Brazilian journalist who works for Williams confirmed by a second source claiming wealthy foreigners are securing U.S. visas through sham companies, with Barr's direct knowledge and participation. Police alleges she's being set up as the fall guy in an ongoing DOJ cover-up to protect the powerful deep state individuals involved. She was hired by 2021 by Armstrong Williams media company. Howard Stern Holdings claims she was pulled into the visa fraud scheme to secure U.S. visas and green cards for wealthy clients, including the parents of superordinary CEO Julian Reese, a former JP Morgan trader and hedge fund founder. Lalise agreed that Williams and her legal counsel, New York Assemblyman Clyde Vanell, instructed her to craft business plans for fake companies. Well, then all these people should be arrested if that's what's going on. Project Veritas examined the text and directing her to create the $700,000 in her personal account. Yeah, well, Trump's gold card is a little different, I think, the $5 million, because that's from the actual government. These are people lying and creating fake stuff to get it done. So what Trump wanted to do would be legal because the government's openly doing it. This is shady stuff behind the scenes and lying, or fraud on the government.
It's very easy to know why I am being persecuted and no one else it's being charged or persecuted. It's very easy. I called the FBI to report Bill Barr and Armstrong Williams. It is way more easy to defraud the immigration system and the government more than the people think. And I have proof of that because that's what Armstrong and Bill Barr does. We use the burner phone since I started to work for Armstrong. Everyone uses a burner phone to call politicians or to call whatever we need to call. For example, this one, it is for Fannie Willis. I have a burner phone that we use to call Barr. After all these people get their green cards or their visas, they never work in the company they are supposed to open and work. This company is completely fake. They don't exist. Bill Barr knows the companies that they launched for the visa was not real companies. One thing that I learned very fast and very in the beginning is Armstrong Williams in 2021, and I was hired as a journalist. Their names is Peter and Vivian. Julian, it is a billion Armstrong and his friends can send to the government. I met Clyde Vanell's billionaires, and they are supposed to launch a company. Talking about all these rich and billionaire peoples together.
Okay. Yeah, so that's very interesting. We're going to have to keep an eye on that. We have to keep a very interesting eye on that. So, yeah, so we went for 3 hours tonight. It's 3:30 in the morning. I am tired. I'm going to go to bed. I want to thank everybody who was here. Please remember to hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment. Tell me how you liked it. Tell me what you think. And I'll see you all later today, Wednesday night. I'll be doing another stream. Come on back and let Jim tell you the news.